Chapter 726. Lu Ping had already condensed 7 layers of Vigor Qi. Aside from the myriad poison liquid, which was a high-grade Vigor Qi, the other 6 heaven and earth oddities were all in the mid to low-grade range. The green jade glass liquid was a high-grade heaven and earth oddities similar to the myriad poison liquid. It was extremely rare in the cultivation world, and cultivators who could use it were few and far between. The sloppy man wasn't afraid that someone would see through his disguise when he took out the cyan jade glazed liquid. However, most cultivators who could see through the cyan jade glazed liquid were knowledgeable cultivators with profound cultivation. Only these cultivators would have the item that the sloppy man needed. However, he didn't expect that the cyan jade glazed liquid would be seen through by a core forging cultivator. Looking at the spirit pill in Lu Qina's hand, the sloppy man's heart was filled with joy. He didn't expect that although this little girl's cultivation was low, she would have such a high-grade spirit pill. Although it wasn't enough to completely heal his injuries, it would still be of great benefit. The situation was urgent and this spirit pill was urgently needed. Even if it couldn't compare to the green jade glass liquid, he couldn't care less. However, just as the sloppy man was about to agree, his eyes suddenly narrowed. A cold light flashed and he stared at Lu Qina's hand that was holding the spirit pill. At this moment, the sloppy man suddenly felt an incomparably tyrannical aura flash past him. He was startled, and when he turned to look, he happened to see Lu Ping casually glancing at him. Although the sloppy man was puzzled, he became even more vigilant. At this moment, Lu Daohua, who was next to Lu Qina, saw that the sloppy man's face was previously filled with eagerness, but in the blink of an eye, he became silent. She thought that he was trying to raise the price. Naturally, she was unwilling and opened her mouth to speak. When the sloppy man turned to look at Lu Daohua, he saw that she was pointing at the green jade glass liquid and was saying something. He subconsciously looked at Lu Daohua's outstretched hand and his pupils shrank again. 2 young ladies, if you are interested in the spirit liquid in this bottle, it is not impossible to exchange it. The sloppy man pondered for a moment and seemed to have made up his mind. He smiled at Lu Qina and Lu Daohua. At this time, Lu Ping had already recognized the green jade glass liquid. However, he did not think that Lu Qina would recognize such an extremely rare heaven and earth wonder. Lu Ping looked at Dabao, who was at his feet. It was very likely that Dabao had discovered the uniqueness of the spirit liquid in the bottle, but he did not know what kind of spirit liquid it was. After Lu Qina found out about it, she naturally wanted to exchange it. She did not even hesitate to take out the life-saving spirit pill that Lu Ping had given her. After Lu Ping's qi of vigor had been refined to the 7th layer, he had not been able to find a suitable spirit liquid. Therefore, he had not made any progress for many years. Lu Qina was naturally aware of this. She had taken out the best spirit pill she had on hand in order to exchange for the spirit liquid and give it to Lu Ping to refine his qi of vigor. Lu Ping could not help but smile. This little girl had actually learned to care about others. However, the green jade glass liquid was extremely precious. Although the spirit pill that Lu Qina had taken out was also extraordinary, it could not be compared to this high-grade heaven and earth wonder. When Lu Qina heard the sloppy man in front of her, she actually calmed down and said in a deep voice, "What do you want in exchange?" The sloppy man looked at Lu Qina and Lu Daohua's wrists again with a playful smile on his face. Then his eyes inadvertently flashed with a green light and he said, "I see that the jade bracelets on your wrists are quite good. If you two are willing to part with them, you can take this bottle of spirit liquid." When Lu Qina and Lu Daohua heard that the person in front of them wanted the bracelets on their wrists, their expressions suddenly changed. The two shook their wrists at the same time and used their sleeves to conceal the bracelets on their wrists. As a result, it had the effect of revealing the truth. When the surrounding cultivators saw the two of them acting like this, they were even more certain that the bracelets of the two were most likely extraordinary treasures. One after another, they spread their spiritual sense over, intending to see what was going on. Although Lu Qina and Lu Daohua were also core forging cultivators, when faced with the probing of so many cultivators with powerful divine senses, they were unable to resist for a while. The bracelets on their wrists were quickly discovered by the divine senses of others. "What is this thing? Why haven't I seen it before? It doesn't look like a magic treasure. There aren't any true essence fluctuations coming from it. There aren't even any spiritual chi fluctuations. Why would this sloppy man want something like this? Hehe, it can't be that this man saw these two beautiful young ladies and had some thoughts about them, right? Lucina could still be considered calm. She fiercely glared at the sloppy man and grabbed Lu Daohua, who was at a loss. She said, "We're not buying it. Little sister, let's go." The sloppy man saw that Lucina and Lu Daohua were about to turn around and did not stop them. Instead, he looked behind them with a serious expression. When Lu Ping saw the green light in the sloppy man's eyes, he knew that he was in trouble. When he squeezed through the crowd and arrived in front of the two, the divine senses of the surrounding cultivators had already broken through their respective divine senses. Fortunately, the people around them did not know what Lucina and Lu Daohua were wearing on their wrists. Lu Ping looked coldly at the sloppy man in front of him. Then, a cold aura suddenly exploded from his body. A strong divine sense swept out and drove away all the divine senses in the surroundings. Many cultivators let out muffled groans and their faces turned pale. However, they looked at Lu Ping with fear in their eyes. They did not dare to criticize Lu Ping's actions. Lu Ping looked at the sloppy man in front of him and said, "Although the injury of the blood vessels only affects part of the blood vessels, if it is not healed in a short period of time, in the future, one's cultivation will slowly decline and it will no longer be possible to advance to the Dharma phase." When the sloppy man heard Lu Ping's words, his body trembled. He looked up and said, "Your Excellency is an alchemy master?" The surrounding cultivators were originally awed by Lu Ping's power. Although they did not dare to say anything about his domineering divine senses, they were very dissatisfied in their hearts. However, when they heard the sloppy man in front of them said that this person was actually an alchemy master, the noisy scene suddenly quieted down. The sloppy man's previous laziness suddenly disappeared a lot. He pondered for a moment and said, "These two little girls have a good relationship with Your Excellency, right? I was rash before. I wonder if Your Excellency has a way to heal my injuries. If Your Excellency can heal them, why not give this bottle of spiritual water to Your Excellency?" Lu Ping glanced at the two little girls beside him, then looked at the sloppy man with a smile but didn't say anything. The sloppy man suddenly came to a realization and a strong fluctuation of spiritual chi erupted from his body. Many of the surrounding cultivators turned pale with fright and quickly moved out of the way. They saw him form a few hand seals and a soundproof restriction immediately surrounded him and Lu Ping's group of three. Lu Ping was slightly surprised when the sloppy man's aura erupted. However, he soon discovered that the person's true essence circulation was obscure. Although it could erupt for a short period of time, it could not be sustained for a long period of time. It was obvious that the damage to his bloodline was more serious than he had imagined. The smile on Lu Ping's face became even wider. The sloppy cultivator looked at the smile on Lu Ping's face and his expression became somewhat silent. After laying down the soundproof restriction, he looked at Lu Ping and said, "The demon transformation bracelet?" Lu Ping's expression became even more certain and he also said, "The spirit beast sect?" The sloppy cultivator didn't see the change in Lu Ping's expression as he expected. Instead, Lu Ping had guessed his origins. The sloppy cultivator was stunned for a moment before bursting into hearty laughter and said, "So you really do have a relationship with my spirit beast sect? I wonder where Your Excellency obtained the demon transformation bracelet from? It is rarely seen in my sect." A faint smile appeared on Lu Ping's face and he said, "If Your Excellency's relationship is only with these two demon transformation bracelets, isn't it a bit far-fetched?" The sloppy cultivator didn't mind and turned to look at Lu Ping, who was glaring at him from Lucina's side and said, "The Luan clan. Could it be that Your Excellency is from overseas?" Without waiting for Lu Ping to answer, he looked at Lu Daohua on the other side and said, "This young lady is very strange. I am unable to see through her origins. However, since she is wearing the demon transformation bracelet on her wrist, I assume she is not from the human clan." When Lucina heard that the sloppy cultivator had guessed that Lu Ping came from overseas through her heart thumped. However, Lu Ping pointed at Dabao on the ground and said with a smile, I also have a spiritual pet. I wonder if Your Excellency will think that I am from the Middle Earth after seeing it. I have long heard that the Spirit Beast sect has a secret technique that specializes in seeing through one's origins called the Green Jade Spirit Eyes. Seeing it today, it is indeed worthy of its reputation. However, with Your Excellency's current state, how long can you maintain this technique for? The two of them revealed each other's identity in a few words. Lu Ping was calm and unruffled, while the sloppy cultivator was at a disadvantage because of his hidden injuries. Now that he had a request for Lu Ping's help, he couldn't help but be at a disadvantage. The cultivator cupped his hands towards Lu Ping and said, I have experienced Your Excellency's methods. May I ask if Your Excellency is confident in treating my injuries? Without waiting for Lu Ping to speak, the sloppy cultivator continued, I have also consulted several alchemists. There is no lack of them like Your Excellency, but they all said that my injuries can be alleviated and controlled, but it is extremely difficult to treat. If Your Excellency is confident in treating my injuries, please feel free to take this green jade glass liquid. Lu Ping pondered for a moment. He really coveted the bottle of green jade glass liquid, but he still cautiously asked, the Spirit Beast sect has a long heritage. It is said that their heritage is not inferior to the 5 sacred lands. Could it be that your sect does not have a sacred alchemist who can treat my injuries? The sloppy cultivator helplessly said, my Spirit Beast sect cultivators travel the world. Although we have fellow sect members, time cannot be delayed. To be honest, Your Excellency, my injuries are much more serious than they were 2 days ago. Right now, I am only holding on to a sliver of luck in this small town. Lu Ping looked at the green jade glass liquid on the ground and nodded, saying, I am confident in treating your injuries. However, in addition to Your Excellency's green jade glass liquid, I will need something else. Chapter 727. When the slovenly cultivator heard that Lu Ping had other requests, his expression immediately changed. Don't you think you're pushing your luck? Since you recognize the green jade glass liquid, you should know how precious it is. Is it not worth exchanging it for a spirit pill? Lu Ping laughed involuntarily and said, you must be joking. Right now, you're facing a situation where your cultivation base is about to be destroyed. Are you really going to give up your cultivation base for a bottle of spirit liquid? Besides, after you were injured, you didn't go to any of the large sects to ask for help. Instead, you hid in a remote place like this. There must be a reason, right? Otherwise, with your identity as a cultivator from the spirit taming sect, those sects would have to give you some face. Why would you come to this small town? You. The slovenly cultivator's face turned red with anger, but he couldn't say anything. He had come to the Abundance Jade Swamp with a purpose, but he didn't expect to suffer such a great loss as soon as he entered the swamp. He had almost been crippled by a sinister technique. Clipchamp, the cultivation world of Hebei has sent a large force to hunt down Mara in the Abundance Jade Swamp. This small town is the key to entering and exiting the Abundance Jade Swamp, so it will definitely become a gathering place for cultivators. I stopped here to find someone who can treat my injuries. In fact, didn't I wait until you found me? Lu Ping calmly replied, that's a reasonable reason, but your injuries are not ordinary. Although the spirit pellet you need isn't a high-grade one, the method to concoct such a spirit pellet is extremely rare. I'm sure the alchemist you met before must have explained to you how troublesome your injuries are. The slovenly cultivator coldly snorted, but there was a look of helplessness on his face. Lu Ping's guess was not wrong. He had come to the Abundance Jade Swamp for an extremely important matter that could not be delayed. However, he didn't expect to suffer such a strange injury from the very beginning. Now, he had no choice but to compromise with Lu Ping. As such, he asked, what do you want? Spirit connecting pills. 10 spirit clearing pills. Lu Ping had a deep impression of the clear spirit pill that Tian Shui Laozu had given to the amethyst wasp King Zilan to consume in the past. This kind of unique medicinal pill of the Imperial Beast sect could be said to be famous in the cultivation world. For any spiritual pet, the clear spirit pill's effect was not inferior to the spiritual forging pill. Spirit clearing pill? 10. Don't even think about it. The sloppy cultivator's face flushed red. This kind of pill is rare even in our sect. Which of the materials needed to refine this kind of pill aren't heavenly materials and earthly treasures of the cultivation world? Not to mention 10 spirit clearing pills, I don't even have one. Lu Ping did not expect the other party to have such a huge reaction after hearing that he wanted spirit clearing pills. Thinking back to the time when Tian Shui Laozu had obtained 3 spirit clearing pills, she had kept them for hundreds of years without using a single one. Even when Tian Lu Laozu had begged repeatedly, it was useless. It was only until Lu Ping's Amethyst Wasp King advanced to the core forging realm and brewed a higher-grade royal jelly did Tian Shui Laozu give one to Lu Ping. From the looks of it, this spirit-clearing pill was no small matter in the Imperial Beast Sect. As Lu Ping pondered, he said, "A straightforward person does not beat around the bush. With your strength, I believe that you must have some spirit-clearing pills on you. I will not ask for it for free. I will use something to exchange for it. How about one?" The reason why Lu Ping was so sure that this person in front of him had some spirit-clearing pills was because when Tian Shui Laozu was roaming the Central Plains, she had met a core forging realm cultivator from the Imperial Beast Sect. Furthermore, when Lu Ping saw the person in front of him, he discovered that although this person's cultivation was only at the 8th layer of the core forging realm, his strength was much stronger than the likes of enlightened Jian Ming and enlightened Fei Hong. Even enlightened Jiyu Hun, who had quite a high position in the Jiyu clan, could not be compared to this person. With such strength, this person would definitely be one of the future Transcendence realm cultivators in the Imperial Beast Sect. With the sect's care, how could he not have some good items on him? As expected, after thinking for a while, the other party's face turned green and red before he said, "I do have a few spirit clearing pills on me. However, if you want 10 of them, this deal will not go through. At most, I will give you 3. Furthermore, I need the demon transformation bracelets from these 2 young ladies." Lu Ping was puzzled. Why do you need the demon transformation bracelet? Isn't this item unique to the Imperial Beast Sect? The other party glanced at Lu Ping but did not speak. Seeing that the other party was not willing to speak, Lu Ping said awkwardly, "This demon transformation bracelet is of great use to me, but I cannot give it to you. I wonder if there is anything else that you need. I only need 7 spirit clearing pills." The sloppy cultivator looked at Lu Ping and said, "Do you really have a spirit pill that can quickly heal my injuries?" Lu Ping smiled faintly and said, "The strange thing about your injury is that your broken meridians seem to be mending but not mending. If you use an ordinary medicinal pellet, once the medicinal energy surges through your meridians, the meridians that seem to have a sliver of hope of recovery will rupture and your cultivation base will be destroyed. Although your injury isn't fatal, if it is delayed, even if you don't lose your cultivation base, you will still be paralyzed and your cultivation base will be greatly reduced." The sloppy cultivator's face darkened. "Since I cannot withstand the medicinal effect, how can I treat it?" Lu Ping said unhurriedly, "You mentioned earlier that you have consulted a few alchemy grandmasters. I wonder if they have mentioned to you that there is a spirit water alchemy technique in the cultivation world?" The sloppy cultivator's expression suddenly became excited. "You know this technique? Do you know what kind of pill can be refined using this technique to heal my injuries?" Sure enough, the sloppy cultivator had heard of this alchemy technique. However, although the alchemist who told him about this technique knew of its existence, he only guessed that it could be used to cure this kind of injury. As for what kind of spirit pill would be refined with this technique, even the alchemist didn't know. Lu Ping sighed inwardly. The cultivation world of the Central Plains was not like the overseas world. Many alchemy masters in the overseas world had never even heard of the spirit water alchemy technique, let alone believed in it. Only a few knowledgeable alchemy grandmasters had heard of it, but that was all they had heard of. Lu Ping flipped his wrist and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. He took out a grape-sized pill and said, "This pill is called the Spirit Water Meridian Nourishing Pill. It is the most effective for your injuries." With that said, Lu Ping infused his true essence into the spirit core and a water elemental aura emerged from the spirit core's surface. The sloppy cultivator immediately sensed the unique spirituality of the spirit core. Lu Ping saw that the sloppy cultivator's expression relaxed. It was obvious that he knew how to differentiate the pill refined using the spirit water alchemy technique. However, he waited until now to say it. He was clearly a cautious person. The sloppy cultivator cupped his hands at Lu Ping and asked in a serious tone, "I am Sang Yu. How should I address you?" Lu Ping returned the greeting and said, "I am Lu Ping." "Greetings, Brother Sang." The sloppy cultivator, Sang Yu, exchanged the green jade glaze liquid in his hand with Lu Ping's spirit water meridian nourishing pill. Then he said, "Brother Lu, the spirit clearing pill is indeed very important to our sect. I can only take out 3 pills. This is also the sect's rule. After all, this pill is not easy to refine. However, if Brother Lu wants these pills, you must help me with something. I know that Brother Lu is very strong. Although you are only at the 8th layer of core forging, I fear that even a 9th layer core forging cultivator is no match for you. If Brother Lu is willing to help me with this matter, I will definitely give you 3 spirit clearing pills." Naturally, Lu Ping wouldn't blindly agree just for 3 spirit clearing pills. Instead, he asked in a serious tone, "What do you need me to do?" "I will be entering the lush jade swamp with the sect's elders in the next few days to participate in the encirclement of Mara. I'm afraid I won't be able to make it in time." Sang Yu sensed the spirit water meridian nourishing pill's aura and knew that it was indeed effective. His previously gloomy expression had long since disappeared. Hearing Lu Ping's words, he laughed and said, "Brother Lu, rest assured. What I want to do will also happen in the lush jade swamp. Brother Lu only needs to find an excuse to move alone in the Central Plains for a period of time. Last time, I was harmed by a vile person and gave up halfway. I even suffered a strange injury. This time, with Brother Lu's help, my chances of success will greatly increase. Of course, regardless of whether I succeed or not, I will definitely give you 3 spirit clearing pills." Lu Ping pondered for a moment before nodding and saying, "All right, I agree to this. However, where will I meet up with Brother Sang after entering the lush jade swamp?" Sang Yu handed a jade slip to Lu Ping and said, "This is a map of the lush jade swamp. The place where we will meet up is marked on the map. The cultivators of the various sects in Hebei will most likely enter the lush jade swamp tomorrow. It's hard to say whether they will succeed or not, but the lush jade swamp is vast and boundless. Without several months, it will be impossible to complete this operation. It just so happens that I will need a month to recover from my injuries. In that case, let's meet up at the appointed place in a month." Lu Ping nodded and was about to lead Lu Qina and Lu Daohua away when he heard Sang Yu say, "Brother Lu, don't blame me for not warning you. This operation to encircle Mara in Hebei will most likely be far more complicated than you can imagine. As a cultivator of the spirit taming sect, we have heard quite a few things. Not only will the various sects in Hebei have their own plans for this operation, but the cultivators of the south bank of the Yulon River, the cultivators of the plains downstream of the Yulon River, as well as the cultivators of the highlands upstream have all heard of the news. In addition, the monsters of the Yulon River have also appeared in the swamp. The waters here are very deep." Lu Ping thanked Sang Yu and turned to leave. Sang Yu stared at Lu Ping's back and muttered to herself, "Strange. What exactly is the background of that little girl? How is it that even my Jasper spirit eyes, which has condensed a 7th-level spiritual object, couldn't see through her? On the other hand, that Luan and that spirit-seeking mouse on the ground are quite interesting. The Luan clearly has the attributes of both wind and fire. How could the Fire Luan race, which has always prided themselves on their pure bloodline, tolerate such an unusual existence? That spirit-seeking mouse is even more strange. Although it has displayed a mid-stage blood condensation cultivation, which is already very commendable for a low-level spirit-seeking mouse, it seems that this mouse has been sealed by some special method. I still can't see through it. This person's methods are really hard to fathom. Could it be that the spirit-seeking mouse's cultivation is even higher? Sang Yu pondered for a moment, but still couldn't come up with an answer. She continued to murmur to herself, "It seems that after this mission is completed, I might as well make friends with this person. It's fine if it's just a few strange spiritual pets, but the most commendable thing is that none of his spiritual pets have been sealed off. They are still free. This will be able to win the goodwill of the spirit-taming sect. Chapter 728. After the incident with Sang Yu, Lu Qina and Lu Daohua were no longer in the mood to continue shopping. They followed Lu Ping to find a clean inn to stay in. However, there were no spirit veins in this small town, and the spirit qi in the air was thin. Moreover, there were thousands of practitioners of different levels in the town, so there was no room for people to train. Lu Qina and Lu Daohua informed Lu Ping of their plans and returned to the House of Gold. The fact that the practitioners of the spirit beast taming sect could see through Lu Qina's real body with the demon transformation bracelet reminded Lu Ping that the demon transformation bracelet belonged to the spirit beast taming sect, and Sang Yu had only noticed the shrunken demon transformation bracelet on Lu Qina and Lu Daohua before noticing that they were demons. However, since Sang Yu could see through Lu Qina's identity, it was hard to say that other practitioners did not have secret techniques like the spirit beast taming sect's Jasper spiritual pupils. In fact, Lu Ping's own 3 pure eyes was not inferior to the Jasper spiritual pupils, but both were focused on different things. Fortunately, Ancestor Long Huai had placed a seal on Lu Daohua all those years ago, and it was able to conceal her identity. Unless she encountered a cultivator that was even more formidable than Ancestor Long Huai, otherwise, even the spirit beast sect's jadeite spirit eyes would be useless against her. However, Lu Ping's request for Lu Daohua to wear the demon transformation bracelet was not completely useless. Although the Longhuai ancestor had hidden her identity, it could not change the fact that she was a demon. Without the demon transformation bracelet, the secret that Lu Daohua was not a human practitioner would be exposed. At least if she was seen as a demon, she would be protected by Lu Ping's status as a spiritual pet. If her identity as a demon was exposed, even a Dharma adept would not be able to protect her. Early the next morning, the entire little town was in an uproar. Today, the 18 minor forces of Hebei's cultivation world would enter Rich Jade Swamp to encircle and annihilate Mara. Cultivators from all over gathered in the little town, ready to follow behind the 25 forces. As soon as Lu Ping walked out of the inn, the void in front of him trembled. Under the horrified gazes of the surrounding cultivators, the void rippled like water, and from the rippling void, a sound-transmitting sword suddenly stretched out. Teleportation was a technique used by Dharma adept. Because of yesterday's events, there were many people in the town who had been waiting for Lu Ping. Seeing Lu Ping nonchalantly accept the sound transmission sword, Lu Ping said something to the sound transmission sword. Then, he pushed the sound transmission sword into the spatial ripples and disappeared. Immediately after, the turbulent spatial ripples calmed down. Luckily, Zhu Donghuang had not been blinded by greed yesterday and had not tried to snatch the treasures from him and the 2 girls. This person indeed had a Dharma adept backing him up. However, where had the girls who had been following him gone? After Lu Ping recovered the sound transmission sword that Guo Tianshan and Lao Zhu had sent, his face was filled with worry. From the information that Guo Tianshan and Lao Zhu had sent, it seemed that what Sang Yu had said yesterday was true. Furthermore, the situation was more complicated than Lu Ping had imagined. There was no lack of Dharma adepts among the cultivators who had heard the news. Under such circumstances, just Guo Tianshan, Liang Tianfeng, and Chu Tiancheng, the 3 early Dharma adepts, would Lao Zhu be able to cause much trouble? If these 3 Lao Zhu were to be exposed, there was a possibility that they would die. Have you heard? This time, under the spiritual martial sects initiative, 18 small and medium-sized sects in Hebei have come to encircle and annihilate Mo Luo. There are 25 Dharma adepts, led by a late Dharma adept of the spiritual martial sect into the Yingyu swamp. That's not all. This time, besides the 25 Lao Zhu, each sect has also sent a total of 81 late core forging adepts. It is said that these adepts are all at least at the 8th level of the core forging stage and have the potential to become Dharma adepts in their respective sects. This time, the sects in Hebei have put in a lot of effort to surround and kill Mara. Humph. There are various cultivators hiding within this little town. It is not just the loose cultivators from the Hebei region. There is also a considerable number of cultivators from the Henan region, the flatlands downstream and the upper reaches of the Henan region. Who knows how many more of them are hiding around this little town? This siege on Mo Luo will surely be a bloodbath. I wonder how many people will survive. Listening to the discussions of the surrounding cultivators, Lu Ping extended his divine will outwards. Indeed, he found that there were far more cultivators in this small town than he had imagined. Lu Ping raised his eyebrows and looked up towards the northern sky. Immediately, he heard a loud shout from a cultivator in the distance. "They're here, the cultivators of the 18 sects are here." The cultivators in the small town looked into the distance and saw 25 streaks of rainbow light streak across the sky, leaving long shadows in the sky. In an instant, they flew over the small town and flew towards the Ingyu swamp. Indeed, there were 25 Dharma adepts. An overwhelming pressure swept over from afar, and the cultivators who had gathered in the small town let out a roar like a tsunami. Without waiting for these cultivators to react, the streaks of light had already flown over the small town, flying in the direction of the Ingyu swamp. For most cultivators, this was the only time in their lives that they would experience such a grand scene. Seeing the 25 streaks of Dharma adepts disappear into the horizon, many streaks of light shot up from the small town and the vast plains around it, chasing after the 25 Laozu at high speed. However, just as these streaks of light disappeared, the cultivators in the small town suddenly exclaimed, "Someone else is coming. I'm afraid they are the 81 late core forging stage cultivators from the 18 sect." When the crowd looked up, they saw more than 10 streaks of 5-colored streaks of light whistling through the sky. Although these streaks of light were not as vast as the previous streaks of 7-colored streaks of light, there were more of them. Together, they looked like countless meteors streaking across the sky. When the streaks of light flew over the small town and headed towards the Ingyu swamp, the cultivators in the small town and the surrounding area were completely stirred. Hundreds of streaks of light shot up into the sky in an instant, following the streaks of light from before as they flew towards the Ingyu swamp. Then, an endless stream of streaks of light rose up from the surroundings, forming a colorful curtain of light that stretched all the way to the horizon. Even though Lu Ping was considered to be experienced and knowledgeable among cultivators of the same level, when he saw the huge scene of cultivators flying up one after another, he felt his scalp go numb. The cultivators who entered the Ingyu swamp first might face greater danger, but there was no doubt that they would have more opportunities and gains. Those who dared to follow the cultivators from the various sects in Hebei into the Ingyu swamp were naturally cultivators who had some confidence in their own strength. Among the thousands of cultivators, not a single one was below the core forging stage. In fact, there were very few early core forging stage cultivators. Lu Ping was not in a hurry to enter the swamp. As he turned to leave, he heard a cultivator next to him whispering, "Strange, didn't they say that there were 81 late core forging stage cultivators from the 18 sects? Why were there only 80 streaks of light just now?" Lu Ping smiled and a streak of light shot up into the sky, disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. However, there were still streaks of light rising up from the small town as they headed towards the Ingyu swamp. The Ingyu swamp was a place where the Yulon River and the Abundant River released their floodwaters during the flood season. As a result, not only was the swamp vast, but it was also covered in mud all year round. During the rainy season, the swamp would become a swamp. Many of the sundries from the two rivers accumulated there, causing the plants growing in the swamp to wither and rot every year before being soaked in the muddy water. Over time, a faint layer of poisonous miasma rose up above the Ingyu swamp. Although the toxicity of the miasma was weak and even ordinary cultivators could resist it, the miasma was highly permeable and well hidden. Ordinary cultivators would usually ignore it after noticing it. However, after staying in the swamp for a long time, the toxicity would eventually seep into the cultivator's flesh and bones and lay dormant, causing harm to the cultivator. The Ingyu swamp was vast and dangerous. If Mara were to hide in it, it would be difficult for the cultivators to encircle him in a short period of time. However, the sects in Hebei still discussed the encirclement deadline of 3 months. They were considering the miasma that permeated the swamp. 3 months was the time limit for the miasma to seep into a cultivator's blood. Naturally, the miasma didn't have any effect on Lu Ping. On the contrary, Lu Ping's interest was piqued when he noticed the miasma. The poisonous miasma wasn't too strong, but it was tenacious. Not only that, the poison was extremely stealthy and permeable. If it weren't for Lu Ping's 1000-poison serpent, which was also known as the mother of all poisons, he wouldn't have been bothered by the poisonous miasma. Lu Ping's protective energy barrier, the myriad poison meteorite star, could absorb all kinds of toxins to strengthen himself. The myriad poison potion in the Golden House was the same. More importantly, once the toxins in the myriad poison potion were strong enough, it would automatically condense into a mid-grade heaven-rank spirit treasure, the myriad wonder dew. This was what Lu Ping valued the most. After he grasped the refining method of the spirit forging pill, the biggest problem he faced was the lack of a heaven-rank saint-rank spirit treasure like the myriad wonder jade nectar. Previously, he had 3/4 of the myriad wonder jade nectar on him, totaling 27 drops. But after refining several furnaces of spirit forging pills, apart from the 3 drops of myriad wonder jade nectar that Zhenling had accumulated for thousands of years, the remaining 3 furnaces of myriad wonder jade nectar were his own. This was also the reason why he wasn't willing to hand over more spirit forging pills to the sect. With so many myriad wonder jade nectar appearing, Lu Ping still couldn't grasp the consequences of this impact. After a short while, Lu Ping's flight light entered the brimming jade swamp. He propped up the myriad poison meteorite chi and naturally ignored the imperceptible miasma around him. His flight light didn't slow down in the slightest as he flew straight into the depths of the swamp. At this time, after the invasion of a large number of cultivators, the swamp was no longer as desolate and lonely as it was before. The swamp seemed to have suddenly become lively. The dull roars of spells, the crazy roars of beasts, all kinds of mournful screams, and the roars of cultivators resounded from all over the swamp and reverberated in all directions. Lu Ping swept out with his divine sense and went straight to a muddy pond 10 kilometers to the left. Chapter 729. Strictly speaking, the lush jade swamp was a place of exile for the monsters of the Yulon River. Aside from the top-tier monsters with inherited bloodlines, most monsters would only gain sentience after reaching the blood condensation stage. Before that, most of them could only rely on their instincts to train. However, not all demonic beasts would gain sentience during the process of advancing to the blood condensation realm. This included some top-tier demonic beasts that had already gained sentience before advancing to the blood condensation realm. During the process of advancing to the blood condensation realm, these demonic beasts might lose their sentience due to the mutation in their bloodline. They would become savage beasts that could only rely on their instincts to cultivate. This was why both humans and monsters viewed the blood condensation stage as the key to becoming a true cultivator. Human cultivators could only awaken their bloodlines after reaching the blood condensation stage and gain the ability to fly. Monsters, on the other hand, could only gain sentience like humans after reaching the blood condensation stage. Without sentience, they couldn't be considered as monsters, and could only be considered as feral beasts. After all, these feral beasts originated from the monster race. Although they didn't have sentience and couldn't be considered as monster cultivators, the monster race didn't just ignore them. Instead, they gathered them in a place of exile, leaving them to fend for themselves. And the lush jade swamp was one of the places where the monsters of the Yulon River had been exiled. Although the feral beasts didn't have sentience, they could still rely on their instincts to train. The only difference was that their training speed would be slower. But without the constraints of rationality, these feral beasts would be even more ferocious when facing enemies. After the lush jade swamp became a place of exile for the monsters of the Yulon River, it had actually become a natural barrier to the cultivators of the Hebei region. It was also a springboard for the Yulon River to invade the Hebei region. A place that was chosen by the demon race as a place to exile the ferocious beasts should naturally be a place that was lacking in cultivation resources. However, no one would have thought that this barren land would be home to the remnants of the demonic Luo that had wreaked havoc in the cultivation world of the Hebei province. A place that could attract the demonic Luo to gather was naturally a place that could help them recover their vitality. Since the demonic Luo could devour spirits, there must be a natural spiritual vein in the lush jade swamp. The reason why the Spirit Martial sect proposed to gather all the forces of the various sects to enter the Jade Swamp and surround Mara was not only to prevent Mara from returning to the Hebei cultivation world after recovering his strength, but also to seize the spirit veins that might exist in the Jade Swamp and establish his absolute position in the Hebei cultivation world. Another important purpose was to clear out the vicious beasts in the swamp and destroy the bridgehead of the Yulon River Demon clan that invaded the Hebei cultivation world. This was also the reason why the sects in Hebei agreed to this joint operation. Lu Ping walked towards the muddy pond. He did not expect that he would be able to find a hiding place for the water azura within a few dozen miles of entering the Jade Swamp. However, he was curious. Could it be that there was also a place where the spirit veins gathered that could attract these water azura to hide here? However, why didn't his spiritual will sense it at all? Lu Ping stopped a few dozen feet away from the muddy pond with a playful smile on his face. Then, he pointed his finger and a whirlpool appeared in the middle of the muddy pond. This whirlpool was strangely tight. The surrounding water gathered towards the whirlpool, and then the water was thrown far away from the muddy pond, leaving only a pile of mud in the pond. Lu Ping looked at the muddy pond and couldn't help but laugh. You can even endure this. Everyone says that the Azura and the demonic cultivators are like locusts in the cultivation world. Don't you want to know how to endure? Lu Ping stretched out his hands and clenched them tightly. The muddy pond quickly dried up. As Lu Ping's cultivation increased, the Sea of Mulberry Fields technique, which was one of the best spells in Lu Ping's North Sea 12 techniques, showed its power more and more, and Lu Ping was able to use it more and more smoothly. Bang! The mud exploded, and the Azura hiding in it could no longer hide. Taking advantage of the flying mud, they attacked Lu Ping. There were 3 great Asuras in the core forging stage. One of the weapons in the hands of the Azura flashed with a blinding light. When Lu Ping saw this cold light, he did not hesitate to use the Autumn Dew sword. The Asuras were good at hiding. Lu Ping being able to discover the Asuras hiding in the muddy pond was already his limit. Since they could be discovered by Lu Ping, these Asuras naturally could not be Dharma Asuras. Thus, Lu Ping was very confident in killing these 3 Asuras. However, Lu Ping did not expect that there would be a great Azura that was close to the Dharma stage and had a companion weapon that had reached the level of a spirit-nurturing treasure. Raging Waves technique. The twin swords, one in front and one behind, created a huge wave that pressed down on the 3 Shuras, preventing them from reaching Lu Ping's range of attack. The strongest Azura held a 2.5-foot short sword in its hand. With just one sword, it cut through the wave formed by Lu Ping's 2 swords and rushed toward Lu Ping. Lu Ping was not surprised. Instead, he was happy. At this time, the other 2 Asuras were afraid of Lu Ping's sword wave and had already distanced themselves from this Azura. Lu Ping's 2 swords suddenly circled around and immediately trapped this Azura in his sword circle. Green Serpent disturbing the sea sword technique. 2 green sea dragons soared into the sky from the sword wave, circling left and right, entangling the great Azura in the middle. The short sword in the Azura's hand turned into a green ball of light and blocked the 2 green serpents. The 2 swords clashed. The Azura's spirit-nurturing treasure cut through the sword scales of the 2 green serpents, but the green serpent formed by fainting autumn sword wrapped around them tighter. At this time, the other 2 Asuras finally broke through the sword wave and came at Lu Ping because Lu Ping was using all his strength to kill one of them. A small black flag suddenly rose above Lu Ping's head. The flag fluttered, and the water that Lu Ping had thrown out from the muddy pond appeared under the feet of the 2 Asuras. It turned into water ropes that wrapped around the 2 Asuras' feet. But just as the 2 water ropes were about to further restrict the 2 Asuras' movements, the water ropes suddenly thinned and melted into the 2 Asuras' bodies. Lu Ping scolded himself for being stupid. Water Asuras were gifted with all kinds of water-type spells, so they naturally had a strong resistance to water-type spells. Seeing that the 2 Asuras weren't affected and were rushing towards Lu Ping, he suddenly heard the wind above him. A seal the size of a small mountain fell from the sky and smashed into the 2 Asuras, splashing water everywhere. At this moment, a colorful poisonous fog suddenly burst out from the muddy pond that had previously dried up. Then, a weak aura followed closely after and diluted in the surrounding air. A colorful figure flashed in the sky. Lu Ping was shocked. There was a poison azura hidden in the muddy pond. A curtain of water hung down from the water-controlling flag, and white lotuses bloomed on the water curtain. Then, 9 lotuses broke in a row, and the water curtain caved in deeply. Then, it bounced back, and a multicolored cloud flew backward, then hovered several hundred feet away. Lu Ping used the same trick again. The water-controlling flag fluttered, and the 9 water vines rolled up and went deep into the colorful cloud floating in the air. The colorful cloud didn't flash, as if it was laughing at Lu Ping's exhaustion. It didn't see that when Lu Ping used the water-controlling technique, several golden lotuses flashed on the water curtain of the water-controlling flag, turned into a golden stream of water, and poured into the 9 water vines. Suddenly, a mournful roar came from the colorful cloud. The cloud suddenly trembled violently, and then pieces of cloud began to float in all directions like cotton floated by the wind. Lu Ping looked at the golden color coming out of the cloud in the air and said with a smirk, "Do you really think you're immune to all poisons? You even dare to absorb the myriad poison serum." Lu Ping made a sword spell in his hand, and the 2 green dragons circled more and more urgently, gradually forming a huge water scroll. The light ball formed by the short sword in the great azura's hand kept shrinking as the water scroll continued to wear it down. Shrill hisses came from the water scroll, and the light ball began to rush left and right, as if trying to break out of the water scroll's encirclement. Lu Ping chuckled and said, "It's too late to escape now." The colorful cloud in the sky dissipated, and an azura with strange patterns all over its body appeared in front of Lu Ping. It stumbled in the air and finally fell into the swamp. Although this poison azura was dying from the backlash of the myriad poison serum, Lu Ping could see that the golden color of the myriad poison serum was slowly disappearing in the poison azura's body. Obviously, the poison azura was trying to refine the myriad poison serum that Lu Ping had injected into its body. If this poison azura was given some time to refine the myriad poison liquid, not only would it be able to recover its strength, but its strength would also be greatly enhanced. However, Lu Ping obviously wouldn't give it a chance. Lu Ping reversed the water-controlling technique, and the myriad poison serum that had been injected into the poison azura's body earlier rolled back, and at the same time, the poison azura's poison essence was brought out. In the midst of poison azura's mournful screams, its cultivation essence was sucked clean by Lu Ping, and it couldn't have been more dead. In the golden house, in the pool of myriad poison serum made of bluestone, bubbled. A drop of wonder dew gradually formed at the bottom of the pool, and finally condensed into half a drop of wonder dew. Lu Ping was overjoyed. He changed the technique in his hand, and the autumn dew sword suddenly broke away from the water, stabbing toward the ball of light that had shrunk to less than 10 feet. With a clang, the water azura's short sword couldn't block the 2 swords in the end, and the autumn dew sword pierced through its core space. Lu Ping waved his hand, and the short sword in the water azura's hand flew back into Lu Ping's hand. Lu Ping looked at it carefully for a moment, and then regretfully put the short sword into his storage magic tool. The reason why the Shura's accompanying magic treasures were able to display such power was mainly because they were in the Shura's own hands. Under the special circulation of true essence and innate abilities, the short sword could display power no less than that of a spirit-nourishing magic treasure. But now that the flying sword was in Lu Ping's hands, it only had the power of a spirit-nurturing magic treasure at most. However, if the short sword was given to a master refiner, it could quickly be upgraded to a spirit-nurturing magic treasure. Chapter 730. Lu Ping killed the 4 great Shuras cleanly. Although the appearance of a late core forging stage poison Shura was beyond Lu Ping's expectations, it still did not affect Lu Ping too much. Instead, it was plotted against by Lu Ping with the myriad poison paste. After that, Lu Ping absorbed all the essence of the great Shura and condensed half a drop of myriad wonder jade dew in the myriad poison paste. Lu Ping casually put away the accompanying magic treasures in the hands of the other 2 great Shura that had been smashed by the landslide, and then the golden myriad poison meteorite gang rose around his body again. The countless colorful poisonous clouds that were thrown by the poison Shura gradually gathered towards the myriad poison meteorite gang, and then integrated into the protective aura chi. The golden color of the aura chi all over his body became brighter and brighter. Compared to these things, Lu Ping was more concerned about the bottom of the pond, which had been drained of water by Lu Ping's water control art, and only cracked soil was left. Previously, 3 water Shura and 1 poison Shura had rushed out of the bottom of the pond one after another, and a huge pit had been blasted open. A faint spiritual power lingered at the bottom of the pit, and a stench was emitted from it. Lu Ping could not help but frown. This stench was formed by the debris that had accumulated in the swamp over the years, and then gradually decayed after being covered by silt. These decayed things also contained various toxins, and were the main source of the poisonous miasma floating above the swamp. Lu Ping's left hand drew a stroke, and a space portal opened. The myriad wonder jade dew in the bluestone pond where the myriad poison paste was located seemed to have found some delicious Dao-Tai. A dark red mist rose from the bottom of the quagmire, and then was attracted to the space portal. It gradually gathered above the bluestone pond, and gradually condensed into a 3-foot cloud. When the cloud had condensed to its limit, dark red raindrops fell from the cloud and merged with the bluestone pond. Finally, they were assimilated by the myriad poison liquid. The half a drop of myriad wonder dew that had been condensed from the essence of a late core forging stage poison azura gradually became plump. However, this transformation process was a bit long, and it was unknown when it would become a complete drop of myriad wonder dew. After the myriad poison liquid had absorbed all the decaying toxins at the bottom of the quagmire, the originally weak spiritual chi suddenly became thicker. Lu Ping drew a stream of water from the swamp pond next to him, then entered the quagmire and brought out a stream of muddy water. After a while, the mud at the bottom of the quagmire was cleaned up. So there was a small spirit vein hidden here, but it was covered by the previously decaying poisonous thing, causing the spiritual chi to be unable to penetrate the surface. It seems that a poison azura first discovered the poisonous thing, and then discovered the hidden spirit vein below, so it attracted 3 water asuras. This can be considered a pleasant surprise. Lu Ping took out a set of formation tools from his storage magic tool, and set up a traction magic array at the bottom of the quagmire according to the position. When he returned to Yingshan Immortal Academy, he could activate the magic array to guide the spirit vein back to Yingshan Immortal Academy. Previously, De Bao found 4 small spirit gathering pearls and 6 miniature spirit gathering pearls in the Fist Valley. At that time, Sage Xian Fang and Sage Li Nan were also present, so on the second day, Sage Xian Cai asked for 6 miniature spirit gathering pearls from Lu Ping. Originally, Sage Xian Cai was aiming for Lu Ping's 4 small spirit gathering pearls. Yingshan Immortal Academy had already condensed nearly 2 medium-sized spirit veins. If the 4 small spirit veins nurtured by the 4 small spirit gathering pearls were added, Yingshan Immortal Academy would have 2 more medium-sized spirit veins in a year or 2. This would be a great boost to the Immortal Academy's foundation. However, Lu Ping still wanted to use these small spirit gathering pearls to strengthen Huangli Island's spirit veins, so he naturally would not agree. In the end, he could not dissuade Sage Xian Cai from coming to him every 2 to 3 days, so he could only give the 6 miniature spirit gathering pearls to Sage Xian Cai before sending her away. After the spirit vein became a medium-sized spirit vein, the increase from fusing with the miniature spirit veins was minuscule, so he gave the 6 miniature spirit gathering pearls away. However, Lu Ping also knew that Sage Xian Cai was not doing this for the 4 miniature spirit gathering pearls. The Immortal Academy was still in its initial stages, so in order to strengthen its control over the Immortal Academy's territory, they had to send disciples to certain areas to declare their ownership. At the same time, they had to develop and manage some places where spiritual energy gathered. This would definitely have a certain impact on the disciples' cultivation. Right now, if a few miniature spirit veins were produced in Immortal Academy's territory of influence, then these disciples would naturally be willing to serve them. Moreover, the appearance of spirit veins, for regions with places where spiritual essence gathered, was a mutually beneficial situation to begin with. As soon as Lu Ping finished setting up the traction formation, his divine sense discovered something. He frowned slightly, but Lu Ping's hands did not stop at all. A series of restrictions were cast out, and the spirit vein that was still releasing spiritual energy was immediately sealed. Then, His hands moved from the outside to the inside, and the entire pit was filled up. The water that Lu Ping had diverted flowed back into the pond, turning it into a muddy pond. After finishing his work, Lu Ping dusted his hands, as if the work had made his hands dirty. Hihi, your esteemed self is quite lucky. You actually found a miniature spirit vein just a few dozen kilometers into the abundant jade swamp. Are you in such a hurry to hide it because you are afraid of others finding it? But this is also good, it saves me the trouble of hiding this spirit vein again. Lu Ping turned around unhurriedly, only to see a few rays of light descending a few dozen meters in front of Lu Ping. The leader was a masked woman wearing a green robe. Her body was shrouded in a faint layer of mist, as if to prevent others from prying. However, Lu Ping's divine sense was tyrannical. His eyes had just condensed the sixth wondrous object. The three pure true eyes was like a pair of sharp swords. No matter what methods the woman in green robe used, he was still able to see through her cultivation. A ninth layer core forging expert. Lu Ping looked at the green-robed woman with surprise. Of the 8 cultivators following behind her, 5 had reached the 7th or 8th layer of the late core forging stage. The remaining 3 cultivators were at the 6th layer, and 2 of them were women. The green-robed woman felt some fear from Lu Ping's gaze. She walked on the edge of danger all year round, so she had a natural premonition of danger. She could feel that the cultivator in front of her was definitely not as simple as an 8th layer core forging cultivator on the surface. Not to mention that he was aware of their situation, but he still went about his own business without the slightest bit of worry. As if dissatisfied with Lu Ping's calm demeanor, and dissatisfied with Lu Ping's unscrupulous treatment of their elder sister, the 2 late core forging cultivators fiercely said, "Elder sister, why are you wasting time with this guy? Just tell him to hand over the guiding formation plate and get lost. If he doesn't agree, then he can stay here today. There are many wandering ghosts in this Ingyu swamp, one more won't make a difference." Lu Ping's eyebrows twitched. He suddenly thought of a famous cultivator in Hebei. He looked at the green-robed woman again and said with a smile, "The 9 bandits of Cyan Fox? You're quite lucky to be able to see such a famous cultivator in Hebei." This trip to the Ingyu swamp was not in vain. The 9 bandits of Cyan Robes were a wandering cultivator faction that roamed Hebei and the lower reaches of the Yulon River. They didn't have a base of operations and could only commit crimes in these 2 regions. They had robbed many cultivators and small forces, and were quite famous in the 2 regions. The leader of this group was a female cultivator named Cyan Fox. She was powerful and as cunning as a fox. She liked to dress in cyan, so she was called Cyan Fox. Her subordinates were also called the 9 bandits of Cyan Fox. The 9 bandits of Cyan Fox had done the most amazing thing in the world of cultivation. With the strength of 9 people, they defeated a small force called the Diligent Snow Sect. The reason for this was that one of the young masters of this force had unknowingly taken liberties with the leader of Cyan Fox and was killed by the other members of the 9 bandits of Cyan Fox. Afterwards, because they were in this sect's territory, they had no choice but to fight against the cultivators of the Diligent Snow Sect. In the end, they won. To be able to become a small force, this sect had to have Dharma idol Laozu at its helm. The 9 bandits of Cyan Fox had set up layers upon layers of arrangements. First, they had killed 3 late core formation cultivators of the Diligent Snow Sect who had rushed over upon hearing the news. Then, when they faced the Dharma ancestor of this sect, the 9 of them set up a Dao soldier formation that had been lost in the world of cultivation for a long time. It was called the 9 Palace Clear Void Formation. They severely injured the Dharma ancestor and forced him to flee, shocking the entire flatland and the cultivation world of Hebei. Afterwards, the 9 of them took advantage of their victory to attack the Diligent Snow Sect's training grounds. After a round of looting, they retreated. The Diligent Snow Sect didn't last long before collapsing. Because of this raid, the 9 of them had disappeared for a period of time. When they reappeared, almost all of their cultivations had significantly increased. In the 2 regions, they were like the sun at high noon. However, after this battle, this group of people, who should have been more rampant, became more and more low-key. They appeared less and less in the cultivation world of the 2 places. This also made it difficult for some sects of the two places who wanted to make an example out of them to others to track them down. Lu Ping didn't expect to meet these 9 legendary cultivators here. However, he didn't panic. Although their 9-palace void formation was powerful, Lu Ping still had to give them a chance to surround him. Lu Ping didn't expect to encounter these 9 legendary cultivators. Although the woman in the lead wore a veil, it still couldn't hide her enchanting charm. She smiled and said, "Your Excellency is so calm. Even after discovering us, you still want to hide the spirit vein. You are confident that we won't reveal the secret of the spirit vein. I wonder where your confidence comes from." Although the woman's words were directed at Lu Ping, she was actually reminding the 8 subordinates behind her not to be impulsive. Since the other party was so confident, it was obvious that he still had some tricks up his sleeve. Lu Ping looked up at the woman and a hint of admiration appeared in his eyes. To be able to dominate the cultivation world of the 2 regions for decades with the strength of 9 people, whether it was in terms of wisdom or strength, was not something that ordinary people could compare to. It was no wonder that the diligent snow sect's Dharma idol Laozu had fallen to her. Chapter 731. How should I address you? Greetings, Azure Fox. Qing, who looked at Lu Ping with bright eyes. The 8 bandits behind her spread out, but they didn't surround Lu Ping. Instead, they seemed to be searching for something. At the same time, the 8 bandits each prepared themselves. Lu Ping could see that the 8 bandits had formed a defensive formation around Qing Hu. Lu Ping smiled, paying no heed to the 9 bandits' actions. He cupped his hands in greeting and said, "I am Lu Xianping." Lu Xianping? Qing Hu mulled over the name. Lu Ping was intrigued and asked, "What's wrong? Do you know who I am?" Ever since the Green Fox 9 bandits had injured the diligent Snow Sect's Dharma adept, very few people in the world of cultivation would address Green Fox as young lady. Unintentionally, Green Fox found it refreshing. "I've heard that there's a new sect in the world of cultivation in Hebei called the Yingshan Immortal Academy. There's an 8th stage core forging stage elder Xian Ping in the academy. More than a year ago, he defeated the 3 heroes of the Jiyu clan single-handedly with 2 swords. Lu Ping was surprised by Azure Fox's intelligence. "Oh, I didn't think I would have such a reputation. Even Boss Azure Fox has taken notice of me." When the 8 bandits behind Qing Hu heard their leader's words, they looked at Lu Ping warily. However, they didn't show any fear, they were just wary of Lu Ping. Sure enough, Qing Hu smiled and said, "Elder Lu is too polite." The 3 heroes of the Jiyu clan are famous existences among the late core forging cultivators of Hebei. However, they were defeated by my 9 heroes of Qing Hu. Lu Ping was surprised that the 9 bandits had fought against the 3 heroes of the Jiyu clan. "Oh, there's such a thing." One of the core forging stage 8 cultivators behind Qing Hu was enraged by his boss's words. If it weren't for the Jiyu clan's 3 heroes being so shameless and asking their brothers for help when they couldn't beat them, those 3 would have been reduced to bones long ago. After that, he looked at his boss and complained, "Boss, why are you talking to this brat? 7th sister and 9th sister have already checked the surroundings. It's very clean. There's no ambush." "That's right," the other 8th stage core forging cultivator said, "Kid, we don't care which sect you're from. You'd better scram now. We're taking this spirit vein. We're the Azure Fox 9 bandits, and we rarely kill. If you don't know what's good for you, you'll die by our hands." Lu Ping turned a deaf ear to their warnings. Instead, he looked at Qing Fox with interest and said, "The Qing Fox 9 bandits come and go like the wind, but now they're interested in the spirit vein. Could it be that they've found a place to base themselves? It seems like the 9 of you are after something big." The moment Lu Ping's words left his mouth, Azure Fox's eyes flashed with a cold light. However, she quickly regained her composure. Just as she was about to say something, the other bandits' expressions changed. 2 8th stage core forging cultivators rushed forward and cursed, "Kid, you're tired of living." As soon as the 2 of them moved, the others had no choice but to follow suit in order to maintain their formation. Qing Hu sighed helplessly. She cast out a pair of battle axes that glinted with a cold gleam and tossed them into the air. The axes expanded in the air and the long handles seemed to be grasped by a pair of invisible hands. The huge axes slashed down at Lu Ping like a bolt of lightning. Lu Ping looked at the 9 cultivators charging at him, and his face gradually turned solemn. The 9 cultivators were actually able to superimpose their auras on one person and then suppress him. Once Lu Ping retreated or dodged, he would immediately be surrounded by the other cultivators from the left and right. In the end, he would fall into the 9 Palace Qing Shu Dao soldier array formation formed by the 9 cultivators. He could only charge forward. At this moment, the huge axe rose into the air and chopped down at Lu Ping. If he faced it head-on, he would have to face an all-out attack from the strongest of the 9 bandits, Azure Fox. This huge axe was obviously a spirit-nurturing treasure. Although it was not as nimble and fast as a flying sword, it was heavy and powerful. Although it was strange for a woman to use it, the power of the huge axe was so strong that even a Dharma adept would not want to face it head-on. Just this axe alone was enough to show that this woman was not simple. Lu Ping's charming Autumn Waters sword and the 2 swords combined. After the combination, the 2 swords had the power of a spirit-nurturing treasure that was condensed from the 8 palaces' treasures. A beam of sword light shot up into the sky and slashed down at the huge axe. True Yuan Sword Qi. This set of sword techniques, which was originally just a small technique, was broken by Lu Ping's powerful inner Yuan and unleashed the power of a great technique. The reason why Lu Ping used this technique instead of the original technique of the North Sea 12 orthodox techniques was because the true Yuan Sword Qi itself was different from the 6 sword techniques of the North Sea 12 orthodox techniques. It was more of an explosive technique, even though this technique could not fully utilize the pure and rich inner Yuan of Lu Ping. Seeing that Lu Ping actually dared to face her head-on, Azure Fox's eyes lit up, and a look of approval flashed across her face. The other 8 bandits who had already surrounded Lu Ping all looked at him with disdain. So what if he could see through the Dao soldier array? In the world of practitioners, how many adepts of the same level would dare to face their boss head-on? Even Laozu of the Diligent Snow sect had been blocked after taking a blow from Azure Fox. Then, he was surrounded and seriously injured. Even though Azure Fox was also seriously injured at that time, could this Lu Xianping be more powerful than a Dharma adept? The huge sword light and the huge axe collided. For a moment, everyone was a little dazed. Then, the dull sound of the collision traveled far and wide. Within a radius of 500 feet, the muddy water in the swamp was sent flying up 300 feet into the air before falling back down as if it was raining mud. If not for the fact that everyone here had a high level of practice, this rain of mud would have been enough to make them look miserable. The strong waves of spiritual qi affected everyone's divine senses, and the heavy rain of mud blocked their vision. However, the 8 of them were able to maintain the stability of the array with Azure Fox by using the connection between the auras of the 9 palaces clear void array. However, what shocked and frightened the 8 of them was that, through the connection between their auras, they realized that Azure Fox was in a very bad situation. When the rain of mud had dissipated, Lu Ping was still floating in midair, but his face was a little pale. At the same time, there was a hint of surprise in the corner of his mouth. It was as if he found it unbelievable that Azure Fox had been able to withstand his full-force attack. Azure Fox was slammed into the swamp by Lu Ping's sword. She took a few steps back, the splashing mud drenching her green robe. The entire 9 palaces clear void array shifted with her retreat, almost allowing Lu Ping to escape from the array. How was this possible? Could it be that this Lu Xianping was even more powerful than that Dharma adept Laozu? But he was clearly a level 8 core forging cultivator. Before the Azure Fox 9 bandits could suppress the shock in their hearts, Lu Ping let out a long howl and split his 2 swords into 2. Ignoring the other 8 bandits, he spun his swords and flew toward Azure Fox. Azure Fox could actually detect a hint of excitement in Lu Ping's howl. It was a kind of desire, the excitement of meeting a worthy opponent, and the desire to fight with all his might. Lu Ping really did need a hearty battle. In Lu Ping's memories, the last time he fought with all his might was when he escorted Yin Xianchu out of the Dragon Gate and fought against spiritual master Xuansu. After that, He fought against Zhongxi on Frost Island. He seemed to be hesitant to use his full strength back then. Most of the battles after that were chaotic. Only the battle against the 3 heroes of the Jiyu clan could be considered enjoyable, but that was only the battle of swordsmanship. Lu Ping had yet to reveal many of his trump cards. In the current world, how many cultivators of the same level could withstand Lu Ping's strongest attack? Even if there were, one shouldn't forget that Lu Ping had only ever used his strongest attack. He had never used his full strength. This was because his true essence was too heaven-defying, to the point that among the North Sea's 12 orthodox techniques, other than the incomplete, Vast Sea's Mulberry Field scripture, and the Sea of 100 Rivers sword scripture, none of the techniques could allow Lu Ping to fully utilize his true essence. Fight with all your might. It was as if the Milky Way had collapsed and the Milky Way had fallen to the ground. The Great River Flows East was the sword art that Lu Ping was most familiar with and had the deepest understanding of. Cyan Fox felt as if she were trapped in a boundless torrent. Wave after wave of swords surged toward her without end, and she felt as if she could be drowned by the torrent at any moment. The giant axe cleaved down, but it was unable to completely separate the torrent of sword energy. Even if you cut water with a knife, the water would still flow. How could the water be cut off? Pervasive was the characteristic of flowing water. Lu Ping had unleashed this set of sword skills to the extreme. It was no longer just a set of sword skills, but a real body that had transformed into a raging river that flowed endlessly. Defense. After the Azure Fox 9 bandits mastered this lost ancient Dao soldier formation, this was the first time they had used their full strength to defend themselves in a life-and-death battle. Even when they were besieged by the Jiyu clan's cultivators during the battle with the 3 heroes of the Jiyu clan, the Azure Fox 9 bandits could only retreat as they fought. Then, when the opponent was about to win, they suddenly turned around and severely injured 5 core Forging Realm cultivators before retreating calmly. From the very beginning, Lu Ping had the upper hand in this Dao soldier formation. Lu Ping alone had suppressed all 9 of them, and the weakness was Azure Fox, who was the host of the formation. In front of Lu Ping's absolute advantage, Azure Fox, who was originally the strongest, had become the weakest link in the Dao soldier formation. The other 8 wanted to surround Azure Fox and rescue her, but before they could hand over their Dharma treasures, Azure Fox was about to be drowned by the torrent of sword energy. The 8 could only retreat to Azure Fox's side and combine the power of the entire Dao soldier formation to stop Lu Ping's attack. Chapter 732. The fated lady in autumn waters spun and entangled Green Fox, cutting off any possibility of her contacting the other 8 bandits. 2 of the strongest great bandits rushed forward to attack Lu Ping. But when they saw a sword ray that was even bigger than the one in front of them, they shrieked and retreated. Flying spirit nurturing sword. How can he control 3 spirit nurturing treasures at the same time? The flowing sword was not easily seen through in the Middle Lands. It was just that the power of fated person in Autumn Water's harmonious swords was far greater than that of a single flowing sword. However, the flowing sword was a spirit-nurturing treasure that had been condensed with 8 treasures. Under Lu Ping's control, it was not something a late-stage core forging cultivator could easily withstand. Although the 2 bandits' attacks were scattered, they still landed on Lu Ping. At this time, Lu Ping's main focus was on trapping Green Fox, so he was unable to move. He could only take the initiative to attack and disrupt the opponent's rhythm. Just as the scattered attacks were about to land on Lu Ping's body was suddenly enveloped by a layer of rainbow cloud robe. The attacks that landed on Lu Ping's body only caused slight ripples. The 4th spirit nurturing treasure. The 2 core forging stage 8 cultivators realized that they might have really run into an iron wall today. A mere core forging stage 8 cultivator wielding 4 spirit nurturing treasures in a single breath to fight. Furthermore, the other party's expression was still calm. Could it be that this person was a disciple secretly nurtured by the 5 holy lands? The 2 7th stage core forging cultivators slashed at Green Fox's flying swords from the left and right, intending to rescue her. A drought heavenly thunder exploded in the sky, and 2 thunderbolts descended from the sky, striking down on the 2 men's heads. The 2 helplessly retreated, using all their strength to defend against the bolts of lightning. However, it seemed as though there was no end to the heavenly lightning. First, there were yin lightning of water, yin lightning of metal, yin lightning of earth, yin lightning of second wood, yin lightning of third fire, and other yin lightning of the 5 elements. However, these lightning techniques were clearly stronger than the ones that ordinary cultivators could unleash. Could it be that this guy has the bloodline of the Yuan clan? Or is he a member of the Yuan clan? That's impossible. The Yuan clan's paranoid people have always thought that their family's thunder technique is invincible in the world. They've never bothered to cultivate any kind of sword technique. The 2 6-stage core forging female cultivators were mainly responsible for restraining and defending the Dao soldier formation. When they saw Lu Ping's ferocious aura, they each released their own protective Dharma treasures, intending to help their 2 companions resist the lightning. However, before the 2 of them could move forward, a golden sword light slashed one of them to the point of tumbling, frightening the other to the point of hurriedly placing the guardian magic treasure that she had already activated in front of her. With a crisp clang, an enormous force came from the guardian magic treasure and sent her flying in one go. However, she didn't notice the slightest sign of being attacked beforehand. In the process of being sent flying, the female cultivator only saw a flash of purple light. Lu Ping shook his head regretfully. After all, he had to split his mind into 2 parts. Even though his divine sense wasn't any weaker than a peak early Dharma adept's, and the 8 strange Jiao dragons in his heart core were surging and breathing out endless true essence to support Lu Ping's battle, he still couldn't control 3 flying swords at the same time, 1 spirit-nourishing treasure robe, 1 psychic 7 thunder treasures gourd, and 2 psychic flying swords at the same time. Under normal circumstances, even if the water spirit sword couldn't hit the 6-stage core forging female cultivator, the huge force of the sword would be enough to seriously injure her. Now, she was only sent flying. There was still a 6-stage core forging male cultivator left. Seeing that Lu Ping didn't use any tricks to deal with him, he thought that Lu Ping had also reached his limit. Instantly, he relaxed and took out one of his magic treasures to attack Green Fox, who was getting tighter and tighter with the autumn dew sword. He didn't expect to be able to break through Lu Ping's dual flying swords. As long as he could cause the dual flying swords to pause for a moment, he believed that his boss would definitely be able to seize the opportunity to break out of the encirclement. This was a tacit understanding. However, before his magic treasures could fly close to him, he suddenly heard a loud noise in his ears. Following that, it was as if a training ground had appeared in his mind, and all sorts of sounds poured into it. His eyes reflected the 9th sister's anxious cries at him, and then he couldn't hear a single word. The magic treasures that were originally flying towards the dual flying swords suddenly became crooked, as if they were drunk, and had no strength left. With great difficulty, he retracted his divine sense that had been scattered by Lu Ping, and the colors of the world finally returned to his eyes. However, he felt a warm sensation flowing through his nose, mouth, and ears. When he touched them with his hand, he discovered that they were all bright red. Before he could feel the lingering fear in his heart, the cultivator who had just recovered his hearing heard a long laugh. When he looked up, he saw that the cultivator who had been trapped by his own formation had already risen into the air, completely escaping from the formation's range. Although the Azure Fox 9 bandits live up to their reputation, they can't do anything to me. Today's battle was very satisfying. If fate allows it, we'll compete again. Today, we'll part ways. The autumn dew sword flew back, and Green Fox stood there in a daze. The other 9 cultivators turned pale with fright, and they cried out, "Boss, big sister, are you all right?" Green Fox reached out and touched the top of her head. The 2 ends of her hair were neat and shiny, and she held them in her hands. Her jet-black hair flowed down from her head to her waist like a waterfall. The other 8 cultivators felt a chill run from the top of their heads to the soles of their feet, and they were all stunned speechless. At this moment, Green Fox suddenly stepped forward and shouted toward Lu Ping's departing figure, "Since you're leaving, we, the Azure Fox 9 bandits, will take this spirit vein." Lu Ping's figure didn't stop, and he didn't turn around. Only one word drifted over from afar. "How dare you!" At this moment, Green Fox shouted to the 2 female cultivators behind her, As if in a fit of pique, seventh sister, ninth sister, dismantle his formation. The two female cultivators looked at each other. Although they felt that their big sister's order was a little inappropriate, they couldn't find a reason to refute it. The two of them stepped forward and were about to cast a spell to break open the muddy pond that Lu Ping had restored. However, just as the two of them arrived in front of the muddy pond, 3 rays of light, one white, one blue, and one purple, suddenly erupted from the muddy pond. Demonic cultivators! Green Fox cried out in alarm. However, the two female cultivators couldn't dodge in time. They felt a sharp pain in their legs, and just as they were about to kill the 2 demonic snakes, they saw a whip flying toward their faces. Under certain circumstances, the face was even more important than the core space. The 2 female cultivators cried out in alarm and hurriedly retreated, but the 3 rays of light were already shooting in the direction that Lu Ping had left. Even Green Fox couldn't react in time. Not only was she exhausted from her battle with Lu Ping, but more importantly, the 3 rays of light coordinated well with each other and were no weaker than the 2 female cultivators. As the 3 rays of light left, Green Fox could clearly see that they were 3 small snakes about a foot long, and each of them had a cultivation of the 5th layer core forging realm. Lu Ping's ethereal voice came from afar. Don't even think about curing the poison. Once we're done with the lush jade swamp, we'll just have to make a trip to the lush mountain immortal academy. Green Fox rolled up 7th sister and 9th sister's calves. There were 2 bite marks on each of their calves, but not a single drop of blood flowed out. One of the wounds was already covered in a layer of ice, but 7th sister didn't feel anything strange. On the other hand, the area around 9th sister's wound seemed to have been weathered, and a layer of crisp skin had appeared. 9th sister was so frightened that tears welled up in her eyes. Try to circulate your quintessential essence and see if you can force the poison out, Green Fox said with a frown. Big sister, you can't. 9th sister said with tears in her eyes, when I circulate my quintessential essence, I can't feel the poison at all, but my skin has become like this. What should I do? 7th sister was much more resilient than 9th sister. She said straightforwardly, Big sister, could that person be bluffing? 9th sister and I weren't poisoned at all? Beside her, a core forging level 8 cultivator shouted, 7th sister, don't be silly. If you weren't poisoned, how could the ice on your wounds not melt? Green Fox nodded and said, Green Tiger is right. Not only were 7th sister and 9th sister poisoned, but those 3 snake demons are also extraordinary. If we don't do as he says and move the spirit vein away, I'm afraid the 2 sisters will really die from the poison. Another core forging level 8 cultivator had a ferocious look on his face as he said fiercely, Big sister, why don't we just kill our way to the Yingshan Immortal Academy now? The Yingshan Immortal Academy has only been established for 11 or 12 years. Their leader, the Dharma adept, Guo Tianshan, must be in the swamp now. That Lu Shenping must be one of the 81 adepts. How many people are left in the Yingshan Immortal Academy now? Don't tell me all the adepts in the academy are as powerful as Lu Shenping. As long as we can capture a few disciples, we can just exchange them with him. This person's methods seemed violent, but his analysis was reasonable. At that moment, even Green Tiger, who was on the other side, was moved. Green Fox sighed and said, Green Wolf, don't be anxious. Right now, all the major sects are guarding their sect's array. If we attack now, let's not talk about whether we will succeed or not. This will definitely cause a public outcry in the Hebei cultivation world. At that time, let's not even talk about whether the 2 sisters will be able to recover from the poison. If anything happens to the other brothers, we, the Green Fox 9 heroes, will lose our name. Green Fox sighed in her heart. The reason why the 9 thieves were able to come together was because they were on the same wavelength. Their strength was secondary. To put it bluntly, other than Green Fox, the 9 of them were only slightly stronger than ordinary core forging adepts of the same level. This was also because they had broken the Diligent Snow sect's array and looted half of the sect's treasures, which had greatly increased their strength. The 9 of them had only relied on a lost ancient 9 palaces clear void Dao soldier array. Are we just going to let it go like this? The one who spoke was the 8th, the 6th-level core forging adept who bled from his nose and mouth after being shaken by Lu Ping's will. Of the 9, he was the most wretched of them all, suffering heavy injuries before even exchanging a single move with Lu Ping. This caused his hatred for Lu Ping to surpass his fear. Green Fox gritted her teeth and said, "Come, let's go find my sworn brother. He's also at the lush jade swamp. Perhaps he has a way." Chapter 733. After the Green Fox 9 bandits left, a monster bee with a body half covered in purple flew out shakily from a low but stubbornly growing bramble. The monster bee wobbled its body in the air as if it was shaking off the muddy water that splashed up from the battle. Then, it chased after Lu Ping in the direction Lu Ping had left. Several dozen kilometers away, Lu Ping found a relatively dry place with great difficulty. He swallowed a pill and began to recover his true essence. The reason why Lu Ping had retreated instead of killing the 9 was because the lush jade swamp was filled with dangers. Lu Ping needed to maintain the strength to deal with any unexpected situations. Lu Ping could kill all of the Cyan Fox 9 bandits, but once Lu Ping did that, he would definitely suffer from a loss of true essence. Even if Lu Ping had the myriad wonder due to speed up his true essence recovery, Lu Ping's enormous amount of true essence couldn't be replenished in one go in a short amount of time. If a cultivator attacked Lu Ping at this time, Lu Ping would very likely put Zhao Yu in danger. Just as Lu Ping circulated the North Sea wave listening technique and the true essence in his body began to continuously recover, a purple crystal wasp chased after Lu Ping from behind and landed in front of Lu Ping. Lu Ping smiled faintly and said, "You sure talk big. You want to attack the Immortal Academy? Aren't you afraid of breaking your teeth?" He had already seen that the Cyan Fox 9 bandits was the only truly powerful one. The other 8 were at most a bit stronger than ordinary cultivators. With this kind of strength, if they reached the overflowing Mountain Immortal Academy, they probably wouldn't even be able to break through the sect's great protective formation. In the evening, the mist in the lush jade swamp gradually thickened. A gentle breeze blew past, making people feel as if they were in an immortal realm. However, Lu Ping's expression suddenly changed. He swung the long sword in his hand at the breeze behind him, as if he wanted to cut it in half. A blood-curdling scream rang out as a green azura fell from the wind. It was a wind azura. Lu Ping casually picked up the weapon in the Shura's hand, and then the Shura gradually weathered away in the breeze. Lu Ping had been in the lush jade swamp for 5 days now. The lush jade swamp was worthy of being called a dangerous place in the cultivation world of Hebei. During those 5 days, Lu Ping had encountered various dangers, both hidden and dangerous. Because he discovered that the poisonous miasma floating in the lush jade swamp and the poisonous essence of poison azura were effective in refining the myriad poison liquid and condensing the myriad wonder dew, Lu Ping tried his best to search for traces of poison azura in these 5 days. However, poison azura were rare existences among the azura race. Coupled with the azura's unique concealment technique, even though Lu Ping had discovered and killed many asuras, including the one he killed 5 days ago, there were only 4 poison asuras, including the one he killed 5 days ago. 2 of them were just ordinary blood condensation asuras. However, Lu Ping gradually discovered that as the miasma and poison accumulated in the myriad poison liquid, the poisonous miasma in the lush jade swamp had no effect on the condensation of the myriad wonder dew. Lu Ping did not know if the same would happen if the poison azura's poisonous essence was absorbed, but at least the 2 blood condensation asuras had no effect on the condensation of the myriad wonder dew. The second threat in the lush jade swamp were the ferocious beasts. Due to Mara's dove nest sparrow's occupation of the Hebei cultivation world, the number of ferocious beasts in the swamp had decreased sharply. However, the surviving ferocious beasts were either tyrannical in strength or had concealment techniques that were not inferior to asuras. These 2 types of ferocious beasts were undoubtedly the most threatening to cultivators. Perhaps it was because Lu Ping was not in a hurry to enter the depths of the lush jade swamp, but during these 5 days, Lu Ping did not encounter too many tyrannical ferocious beasts. However, the ferocious beasts that appeared and disappeared unpredictably annoyed Lu Ping. If it were not for Lu Ping's strength, these ferocious beasts that excelled in concealment, speed, and sneak attacks would have already succeeded. As Lu Ping walked through the swamp, he could hear the screams of cultivators almost every day. By the time Lu Ping arrived, there were only mutilated corpses left on the ground. He did not know if these corpses were killed by ferocious beasts or asuras, or if they were killed by their own kind. However, the hidden danger was the increasing number of cultivators swarming into the lush jade swamp. These cultivators were a mix of good and bad. In the past few days, Lu Ping had encountered some cultivators or groups of cultivators. Lu Ping could sense a faint hostility from these people. There were even traces of killing intent towards a lone cultivator like Lu Ping. If it were not for the fact that Lu Ping wanted to show off his strength, causing others to hold back from attacking him, Lu Ping would have been ambushed countless times by now. Just as Lu Ping picked up the Wind Azura's weapon, the ground beneath Lu Ping's feet suddenly bulged. The soil beneath him sunk down, revealing a huge mouth filled with wriggling white flesh. The mouth wanted to swallow Lu Ping from head to toe. Poochie. Lu Ping was swallowed by the huge mouth. The walls of flesh around him squeezed down, turning Lu Ping into a puddle of water as he was sucked into the huge mouth. Tens of jong up in the sky, Lu Ping looked down at the huge mouth beneath his feet and the body behind it, which was as thick as a water bucket. He could not help but frown in disgust. It was actually a huge earthworm. Having missed its attack, the huge earthworm seemed to have sensed danger. It turned around and tried to escape back into the swamp, but it was already too late. 3 huge snake bodies flashed past, wrapping around the huge earthworm's body from both sides. Then, they tore it apart in opposite directions. With a pa sound, the huge body, which was tens of jong long, was torn into 3 pieces by Samling. However, the earthworm's body was still writhing violently. Its life force was unbelievably tenacious. At this moment, 3 huge snake heads, 1 green, 1 blue, and 1 white, suddenly rose from the surrounding swamp. Samling had returned to his original form. His body was not much different from the huge earthworm, but his strength was far beyond the earthworm's. The 3 snake mouths bit down on the earthworm's 3 pieces. The earthworm, which had been struggling violently, quickly stopped moving and died completely. At this moment, Lu Bai dug out a fist-sized beast core from the earthworm's head. This was the condensation of the earthworm's entire essence. When Lu Ping saw this beast core, he shook his hand and released Dabao. Dabao's nose was very sensitive. His beady eyes stared at the beast core and couldn't move away. Little sister Bai quickly give this beast core to big brother Dabao. Right now, I'm basically recultivating. I'm counting on this beast core to increase my cultivation. Dabao's cultivation had been sealed by Lu Ping using a special sealing technique passed down by his teacher. Now, he had only recovered to the peak of the 5th layer of the blood condensation realm. He couldn't even transform. This earthworm's longevity pill was obviously made of pure earth essence. It was a great supplement for Dabao. As long as Lu Ping refined a batch of pills, Dabao would be able to remove the impurities from the longevity pill and consume it. He believed that he would be able to recover to the 6th layer of the blood condensation realm in a short period of time. After a while, breaking through to the late blood condensation realm wouldn't be a problem. Lu Bai smiled and was about to pass the longevity pill to Dabao. However, a snow-white hand suddenly appeared and snatched the longevity pill from Lu Bai's hand. When Dabao saw who it was, his expression immediately changed. Lu Bai, who was beside him, made a helpless expression. Hihi, big brother Dabao, you want this beast core? This beast core isn't the work of eldest sister alone, but the 3 of us worked together to kill this large earthworm to obtain it. If you want this beast core, just having eldest sister's agreement isn't enough. Second brother and I haven't agreed yet. Lu Linga tossed the beast core in her hand into the air and caught it again. Dabao's heart was thumping wildly as the beast core rose and fell in Lu Linga's hand. He was afraid that Lu Linga would be careless and drop the beast core on the ground. If it was tainted, the value of the beast core would be greatly reduced. Good sister, don't throw it away. Quickly give this beast core to big brother Dabao. Big brother Dabao's cultivation is the weakest right now. He's counting on this beast core to transform. Dabao pleaded softly. Even if you recover your cultivation, you'll still be the weakest. Little sister Zelan has already advanced to the 3rd layer of the core forging realm. Big brother Dabao is also at the peak of the 2nd layer. In any case, your cultivation is also the weakest. It doesn't matter if you don't have this beast core or not. Lu Linger's small face twisted, no longer paying attention to Dabao. Dabao looked at Lu Ping with a pleading gaze, but he saw that Lu Ping had swallowed a pill to restore qi and had begun to refine and cultivate. Dabao had no choice but to cry and said, "Little sister Linger, tell me, what do I have to do to give this beast core to me?" Lu Linger's plot had succeeded. She immediately changed her expression and said with a smile, "Big brother Dabao, look at Linger's pair of daggers. They are the magic weapons that father gave me, but they haven't been upgraded to spiritual magic weapons yet. Second brother's magic weapon has already been prepared with the best spiritual materials. When we go back this time, it will be upgraded to a spiritual magic weapon. Big sister's is the same. Only I haven't prepared it yet." When Dabao heard this, his whole body trembled and he said, "Linger, don't even think about it. Tell me, how many things have you extorted from me alone? Big brother loves you the most and has given you very few good things. I don't believe that you don't have the best spiritual materials to upgrade the magic weapons in your hands. Why are you only staring at the things in my hands?" Lu Linger did not let it go. She said, "Oh, big brother Dabao, you are the treasure-hunting mouse. In the future, you will certainly be a Taoist plentiful treasure who is even more powerful than father's plentiful treasure boy. A little spiritual material is nothing. I know you definitely have it." Dabao firmly shook his head and said, "No, I really don't." Lu Linger suddenly frowned and said, "You dare to say you don't have it? H, where is the weapon of the Ice Azura that father killed 2 days ago? Don't think that I don't know that it was you who took it. If you don't give it to me, I will boil this beast core with big sister and second brother. Anyway, although this beast core does not match the attributes of the 3 of us, it still has a lot of benefit." After that, Lu Linger took out a jade bowl out of nowhere. It was filled with clear water and she was really about to throw the longevity pill into it. Dabao suddenly panicked and hurriedly said, I'll give it to you, okay?" After the two finished the transaction, Lu Ping had almost recovered the qi in his body. He turned to Dabao and the others and said, "Okay, come with me to watch a good show." Chapter 734. Lu Ping raised his right hand, and a ball of colorful light shone out, surrounding his entire body. Then, the light became dimmer and dimmer, and when the light dissipated, there was no trace of Lu Ping. There were 18 small to medium-sized sects in the Hebei training world. 6 of them were medium-sized sects, and these 6 medium-sized sects were further divided into the 3 upper and 3 lower sects. The 3 upper sects were the spiritual martial clan, the Tai Hua clan, and the Yuju sect. Because these 3 sects all had late Dharma adepts in charge, they were called the 3 upper sects. Originally, each of the 3 upper sects had only one great adept in charge. The 3 sects kept each other in check, maintaining the overall balance of the Hebei training world, and were the main controllers of the Hebei training world. The 3 lower sects were the Yundu sect, the Jiyu clan, and the Kangling sect. These 3 sects did not have any great adepts, but each sect had at least 3 mid-Dharma adepts. The Jiyu clan and the Kangling sect were about equal in strength, and both had 3 mid-Dharma adepts, Laozu. They only had 1 or 2 more early Dharma adepts than the Kangling sect. However, when Mara ravaged Hebei, the spiritual martial clan, in order to reduce their losses, exposed the great adept, Wu Lingfeng Laozu, who had been hiding for a long time. The appearance of ancestor Wu Lingfeng had caused the spirit martial sect to become the sect that had suffered the lightest calamity in the Hebei cultivation world, other than the Ying Shan Immortal Academy, which had only risen after the calamity of Devil Luo. However, it had also completely broken the balance of the Hebei cultivation world, and the spirit martial sect had been pushed to the forefront of the storm. This time, the spirit martial sect had no choice but to take control of the Hebei cultivation world by launching the encirclement and suppression of the lush jade swamp. At this time, a few miles away, a group of 6 late core forging adepts were shouting at each other as they surrounded the 6 Shuras, and then began to attack. Among the 6 Shuras, 3 of them had the strength of a late core forging adept, and 2 of them were slightly weaker, but they were also mid-core forging adepts. Although the 6 human cultivators undoubtedly had the upper hand on the battlefield, the Headless Azura relied on their elusive escape techniques to prevent the 6 of them from turning the situation into a victory. At this time, several different howls suddenly sounded around the battlefield. The leader of the 6 human adepts was Immortal Jiyu Hun, an old acquaintance of Lu Ping's. When he heard the howls around him, Immortal Jiyu Hun's heart sank, but then the situation seemed to develop in a worse direction. The muffled roars came closer and closer. Gradually, the ground began to shake more and more violently. Reverend Jiyu Hun bellowed, "Quick, let's go. A large number of ferocious beasts are coming this way." There was no need for spiritual master Jiyu Hun to say anything. The other 6 people shook off their opponents and fled into the sky. However, the 6 Asuras were people who would not rest until they were dead. Seeing that the 6 people were fleeing, they immediately chased after them and pestered them relentlessly, delaying their escape. Immortal Jiyu Hun did not need to say anything. The other 6 people shook off their opponents and fled into the sky. However, the 6 Shuras were relentless. Seeing that the 6 people were about to escape, they immediately chased after them and attacked them. After getting rid of the Azura's entanglement, Spiritual Master Jiyu Hun summoned his magic weapon and wanted to save a Jiyu family disciple on the other side. However, before he could do anything, a total of 10 ferocious beasts had already rushed into the battle with infinite power, and both cultivators and Asuras were fighting wildly. Fortunately, the 3 sides were fighting in a chaotic battle, and the loss was not limited to the human adepts. The 10 Shura were killed on the spot, and 5 of the Shura were killed by the humans and Shura. Thankfully, the human cultivators weren't the only ones who suffered losses in this 3-way battle. The 10 beasts' mindless attacks had also killed 2 Asuras on the spot, while 5 of the beasts had been killed by the combined attacks of the humans and Asuras. At that moment, a long howl rang out from afar. A beam of sword light pierced through the sky, carrying with it a boundless might. The remaining 4 cultivators stared in shock as the sword light pierced through 2 beasts that were over 6 meters tall and weighed over 5,000 kilograms. Amidst the Shura's earth-shaking roars, they fell onto the muddy swamp. Their blood splashed and dyed the ground within a radius of 10 meters red. Reverend Jiyu Hun's reaction was the fastest. His shuttle pierced through an Azura not far away. At the same time, he looked towards the direction of the flying sword and shouted, "Is it Yingshan Immortal Academy's Elder Xianping?" Yingshan Immortal Academy's Elder Xianping was an influential figure among the late core forging cultivators of Hebei's cultivation world in the last 2 years. He had become famous by stepping on the Jiyu clan's 3 heroes. The autumn water sword flew back and was caught by Lu Ping, who was standing on the Yi Ren sword. He laughed and said, "Brother Jiyu, I took the liberty to attack. Please don't take offense." Jiyu Hun used his magic treasure to block Anshura's attack and saved one of his companions from the brink of death. He said bitterly, "Brother Xianping, don't be so humble. Please help us quickly. I didn't expect our luck to be so bad. We were attacked by the Shura and the Shura from both inside and outside. Of the remaining 4 cultivators, 2 were already wounded. Only Jiyu Hun and the other 9th layer core forging cultivator were still able to maintain their full combat power. Lu Ping did not say anything. He swung his autumn water sword and trapped a wind Shura in the air. No matter how the wind Shura tried to attack, Lu Ping's true eyes of the 3 pure was able to find it. In just a few exchanges, the Shura crashed into the moon water sword that had been lying in ambush in the air and inexplicably turned into a corpse. At this time, there were still 3 ferocious beasts and 2 Asuras fighting against enlightened Master Jiyu Hun and the others. Lu Ping patted his flying swords, which immediately turned into 2 azure flood dragons that charged towards 2 of the ferocious beasts. The 2 cultivators Lu Ping saved looked at Lu Ping gratefully, then turned to help Jiyu Hun and the other 9th layer core forging cultivator. With Lu Ping's help, Enlightened Master Jiyu Hun and the others quickly regained their advantage. The four of them worked in pairs and killed the remaining two late core forging asuras in one fell swoop, while the last asura fought a ferocious beast and was heavily injured. Then, Enlightened Master Jiyu Hun's shuttle pierced through the asura. The four of them turned around and were about to help Lu Ping, but the two azure Jiao dragons let out a sword cry. When the azure Jiao dragons formed from countless sword rays dispersed, the two ferocious beasts had already become two piles of minced meat. The four of them couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Jiyu Hun and the others stepped forward to thank Lu Ping and introduced the other three to Lu Ping. The ninth layer core forging cultivator was a cultivator from Cloud Capital sect, one of the lower three sects. One of the other two was a disciple of the Jiyu clan, one of the 81 cultivators who entered the lush jade swamp this time. The other was a cultivator from Kang Ling sect, one of the lower three sects. Jiyu Hun cupped his hands towards Lu Ping gratefully. If it weren't for Brother Xuanping's help, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Lu Ping waved his hand. It's what I should do. Sigh, if I had come earlier, I might have been able to save the two fellow Taoists. The ninth layer core forging cultivator from Cloud Capital sect, Enlightened Master Liu Yun, waved his hand. Brother Lu, there's no need to blame yourself. Junior brother Feiyun and fellow Daoist Mu Qiong were unlucky to be surrounded by four fierce beasts and two asuras. At this time, Lu Ping was a little puzzled and hesitant. Please forgive me for my recklessness. Why did you provoke the asuras and then the fierce beasts? It's too dangerous. Lu Ping's words stunned the four. Enlightened Master Liu Yun smiled bitterly. Brother Shen Ping, you misunderstand. There are only 6 of us, and our strength is only slightly higher than the 6 asuras. Why would we provoke the fierce beasts? It's just that when we were fighting the asuras, the 10 fierce beasts rushed over and we couldn't dodge in time. Come to think of it, it's really bad luck. How did we encounter such a situation? Enlightened Master Jiyu Hun let out a long sigh. He continued Enlightened Master Liu Yun's words. Yes, this is too much of a coincidence. So that's how it is. Lu Ping didn't seem to hear the hidden meaning in Enlightened Master Jiyu Hun's words. He pondered for a moment and said, the fierce beasts don't have any intelligence. Generally speaking, there are only 3 circumstances for 10 different fierce beasts to gather together. Enlightened Master Jiyu Hun glanced at Lu Ping and said calmly, oh, Brother Lu knows something about the fierce beasts as well? Lu Ping didn't think much of it and nodded. I know a little. Generally speaking, when the fierce beasts gather together, it's most likely because they're facing an unstoppable threat from the outside, causing them to abandon killing each other and flee together. If it's a place filled with fierce beasts, it's very likely to form a beast stampede. At this time, Enlightened Master Liu Yun also heard the hidden meaning in Lu Ping's words and asked, are there any other circumstances? Lu Ping nodded. There's another possibility. They were ordered by someone. Enlightened Master Liu Yun asked curiously, who else can order these fellows without intelligence? Lu Ping laughed. Brother Liu Yun, have you forgotten who originally treated this lush jade swamp as their own backyard? A fierce light flashed through Enlightened Master Liu Yun's eyes. The monsters of the Yulon River? Lu Ping nodded. That's right. However, aside from the monsters of the Yulon River, someone else seems to be able to order these fierce beasts. Enlightened Master Jiyu Hun narrowed his eyes. Who? The Spirit Beast Tamer sect. Lu Ping said calmly, but his words shocked the other 4. Enlightened Master Jiyu Hun pondered for a moment, then said, it's unlikely to be the Spirit Beast Tamer sect. Although the Spirit Beast Tamer sect is vicious in their conduct in the world of cultivation, they are extremely secretive and rarely interact with the cultivators of other sects, nor do they take the initiative to provoke others. Enlightened Master Liu Yun nodded. There's an 80% chance that it's the monsters of the Yulon River. This time, the cultivation world of Hebei was originally planning to take advantage of the opportunity to encircle and annihilate Mara to completely incorporate this swamp into the territory of the human cultivators. The monsters of the Yulon River have operated this place for many years, so they naturally won't let it go. Seeing that the others seemed to agree with Enlightened Master Liu Yun's guess, Lu Ping smiled. Perhaps we can personally see the person behind this. Enlightened Master Jiyu Hun and Enlightened Master Liu Yun exchanged a glance, then Enlightened Master Jiyu Hun turned to look at Lu Ping. Elder Xianping, do you have any ideas? Chapter 735. Lu Ping bid farewell to Daoist Jiyu Hun and the other four. Then, Lu Ping headed southwest, while Daoist Jiyu Hun and the other three headed southeast. In a moment, the two groups disappeared into the dusky world. A slight breeze blew the smell of blood into the air, leaving only the corpses of fierce beasts on the ground. It was clear that there had been a life-and-death battle here just now. Suddenly, he felt dazed. For some reason, two black-clothed people had appeared on the battlefield. These people wore black cloths over their faces. He didn't know what the cloth was made of, but it was able to prevent cultivators from probing with their divine sense. The two black-clothed men didn't move after they appeared. They just stood there quietly, ignoring the huge bodies of the fierce beasts behind them. A moment later, one of the cultivators suddenly said in a hoarse voice, "They're here." A dense fog suddenly burst in front of the two, as if blown by the wind. Then, a cultivator in light golden robes walked out of the fog. After seeing the two black-robed cultivators, the man grumbled, 10 core forging level fierce beasts. They're usually fierce characters, but they were so easily killed by someone. How am I supposed to explain this to them when I get back? Didn't you guys vow earlier that there would be no problem? Why did a cultivator named Xian Ping suddenly appear out of nowhere? Now, not only were all the fierce beasts under my control killed, but I will also be punished when I go back. The black-clothed men ignored the man's complaints. One of them directly asked, "This time, it was just a coincidence." Daoist Master Xian Ping's strength is indeed unexpected, but he usually acts alone, so he won't affect our plan too much. Instead, our follow-up actions can't be affected. Have you made the arrangements? When the golden-robed cultivator heard the black-clothed man question him, a trace of anger flashed in his eyes, but he still said, "Don't worry, everything has already been taken care of." At the very least, the late core forging cultivators of Hebei's cultivation world will be greatly weakened. These people are the lifeblood of Hebei's sects. When the time comes, they will feel distressed. The three of them discussed something else. Next, the two men in black took the lead to leave. After that, the golden-robed cultivator fiercely spat a mouthful of saliva onto the ground. Next, his figure gradually grew fainter within the mist. As for the surrounding mist, it gradually condensed. A gust of wind blew and the massive ball of mist began surging into the depths of the swamp. The two black-clothed men flew towards the depths of the swamp, but they did not notice that there were many colors in the fog around them. One of them seemed to have a higher cultivation and quickly noticed that something was wrong. The two of them suddenly stopped and looked around. At the same time, two magic treasures suddenly appeared and revolved around the two of them. The multicolored clouds around them gradually became thicker, and their expressions also became more and more solemn. At this moment, the surrounding multicolored clouds suddenly began to roll, pressing towards the two people in the middle from all directions. A long shuttle suddenly pierced through the cover of the clouds and mist. By the time the two of them noticed it, the long shuttle had already pierced the relatively short cultivator. "Junior brother, be careful." The black-clothed senior brother cried out in alarm. However, he did not move to help his junior brother resist the attack. Instead, he focused all his attention on the surrounding churning clouds and mist. He believed that his junior brother would be able to block such a sneak attack. However, the other party had set up such a formation. It was obviously not the work of one person. The other party must have cultivators hidden in the surroundings. Since the black-clothed senior brother had to guard against possible sneak attacks from others, he naturally would not let his guard down. The sound of a sword whistling could be heard. The black-clothed senior brother's spirit was shaken. His divine sense had already captured the magic treasure hidden in the clouds and attacking him. The magic treasure hovering in front of him rushed into the thick fog. At the same time, a bone shield rose from his body. In the air, 3 light shadows appeared and surrounded the black-clothed senior brother. Although the black-clothed senior brother did not think that the people hidden in the surroundings could catch up to him, his hundreds of years of experience had taught him the principle of a lion using its full strength to catch a rabbit. This caution had finally saved his life today. However, it had only saved his life for a moment. The black-clothed senior brother had just raised the bone shield when his expression changed through his divine sense. Then, an ear-piercing sound rang out. The black-clothed senior brother's magic treasure seemed to have been seriously injured in one blow. He reached out to recall his magic treasure. The surrounding scene became increasingly blurred. Something broke through the thick fog. However, it was not the magic treasure from before. Instead, a pair of flying swords had already rushed out and slashed at the shield. Clang, clang. 2 crisp sounds rang out. The black-clothed senior brother's face paled and he involuntarily took 2 steps back. His face was covered with a mask, but his eyes clearly flashed with shock. At this moment, another object rushed out of the thick fog. It was the magic treasure that the black-clothed senior brother had shot out. At this moment, it was staggering and undulating. It was obvious that it had been seriously injured. The 2 flying swords retreated after missing their attack. The black-clothed senior brother secretly cursed. However, it was already too late. The 2 swords returned to entangle the heavily injured magic treasure. The 2 swords trembled slightly and over 1,000 sword lights slashed at the magic treasure. No matter how the magic treasure dodged, it could not escape from the thousands of sword lights. The magic treasure was immediately broken in 2. The black-clothed senior brother shouted angrily and spat out an arrow of blood from his mouth. After the 2 swords cut the magic treasure, they seemed to be exhausted and returned to the thick fog. At this moment, the black-clothed senior brother seemed to realize something. When he turned around, he did not know when his junior brother had disappeared. In the thick fog, there were bursts of roars from spells. Among them was the black-clothed junior brother's fierce shout. The black-clothed senior brother could hear the anxiety in his junior brother's shout. It was obvious that this junior brother's situation was quite bad. At this time, they were besieged. A thought flashed through the senior brother's mind. He wanted to follow the sound and meet up with his junior brother. However, his junior brother's furious roar came from all directions, causing the senior brother to be unable to pinpoint his exact location. Clearly, the 2 of them were trapped separately. However, compared to himself, the black-clothed senior brother was not worried about his junior brother. Since they were besieged, it meant that the opponent's strength was obviously inferior. However, the black-clothed senior brother was truly worried about himself, or rather, the owner of the pair of flying swords that he had just fought with. The black-clothed senior brother had a premonition that the thick fog around them might be the work of this unknown opponent. Whether or not he and his junior brother could escape today would perhaps depend on the result of his battle with this unknown opponent. Thinking of this, the black-clothed senior brother's heart sank. Although he did not know the result of the battle just now, it was obvious that he had suffered a hidden loss. Although that magic treasure was not his life treasure, it was one of the treasures that he often used. Therefore, after the magic treasure was destroyed, the black-clothed senior brother's mind was affected and he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Sir, who are you? What grievance do you have with us? Why did you ambush us too?" The reply he received was a huge iron seal that fell from the sky. The bottom of the iron seal was engraved with 2 large words, "Landslide." The black-clothed senior brother roared angrily and raised the bone shield around him with all his strength. Then, he shook his arms and an unstoppable force flowed down from his arms, directly pressing down on the core space. The black-clothed senior brother's face flushed red, and a strong stream of chi gushed out from the core space, finally completely counteracting the huge force above his head in midair. However, Lu Ping's methods had always been continuous, so how could a single landslide be a manifestation of his strength? A crisp ding sound came from the black-clothed senior brother's chest. Under the black-clothed senior brother's panicked gaze, a dark blue sword light flashed. After a muffled groan, the black-clothed senior brother once again spilled blood from the corner of his mouth. He no longer dared to be careless, opening his mouth and spitting out a small golden fan. He held it in his hand and waved it in his hand. The golden fan suddenly grew to a length of 5 feet, and he gently waved it in the direction where the water spirit sword had disappeared. At the same time, a bright yellow heart protection mirror slowly floated up from the black-clothed senior brother's chest. The heart protection mirror suddenly expanded, once again protecting the black-clothed senior brother's body. A gust of wind suddenly formed in mid-air, sweeping away the mist in the direction where the water spirit sword had disappeared, forming an empty passage. At the end of the passage, a layer of 5-colored gauze fluttered, completely dissolving the wind brought about by the golden fan. A spirit-nurturing treasure, the black-clothed senior brother exclaimed. No wonder he had been unable to break out of the thick mist. Lu Ping's body turned into a thick mist and just barely escaped the bone-corroding wind from the golden fan. He did not expect that the other party would also have a spirit-nurturing treasure, and the grade of this spirit-nurturing treasure was clearly no lower than that of the Cloudlight 5 Elements robe. The Profound Gold Fan. This is the Profound Gold Fan. You are cultivators from the Profound sect of the Plains cultivation world. Although enlightened Master Jiyu Hun and the others were also inside Lu Ping's Cloud Radiance 5 Elemental cloak, Lu Ping didn't let the cloak block their vision. As soon as Senior Martial Brother Blackcloak's golden fan appeared, enlightened Master Jiyu Hun and the others immediately recognized it as a famous mystic treasure in Tianxian sect. As soon as Spiritual Master Jiyu Hun finished speaking, another loud noise was heard. Spiritual Master Liu Yun's exasperated voice rang out, "If it's not the Xian sect, then what is it? This guy actually has a spirit-nurturing magic treasure, the Xian Divine Lightsaber. How dare you collude with the demon race to harm the cultivators of the Hebei cultivation world? Are you not afraid of giving the Xian sect an excuse to deal with you? A cultivator of the Supreme Profound sect." This was out of Lu Ping's expectations. Originally, Lu Ping thought that the 2 black-clothed cultivators should be cultivators of the Spirit Martial sect. In fact, after seeing that he and the others had been plotted against by the human and demon cultivators, Spiritual Master Jiyu Hun had locked onto the Spirit Martial sect. This trip to the abundant Jade Swamp was actually a battlefield where the various sects of the Hebei cultivation world competed with each other. The Spirit Martial sect cultivators took the opportunity to cut off the late core forging cultivators of the various sects, weaken the various sects, and then join forces with the demon race cultivators to establish their own position in the Hebei cultivation world. However, the problem was, what did the Supreme Profound sect mean by interfering? Were they really not afraid of the backlash from the Hebei cultivation world and the Profound sect taking advantage of the situation? Chapter 736. After separating from the 2 black-robed cultivators of the Supreme Profound sect, the demon cultivator turned into a cloud of mist and hid in the mist of the swamp, flying towards the depths of the lush jade swamp. As they flew deeper, the fog in the swamp became thicker and thicker. When the cold wind blew, it carried a gust of dense white fog. The fog suddenly shrank, as if it was frozen by this gust of cold white fog. The mist dispersed and the beast cultivator walked out. He spread out his divine sense in all directions, but after a long time, he found nothing. He couldn't help but mutter to himself, "This is strange. There has never been such a thick mist in this swamp, and how can the mist become so cold?" The demonic cultivator couldn't figure it out and was about to turn into mist again to escape, but he suddenly found that the cold white mist that was rushing toward him just now had suddenly turned into a layer of ice, and his escape technique was completely broken. At this time, the beast cultivator naturally realized that he had been plotted against. He shouted angrily, "Who is it? Come out." As soon as his voice fell, a clear shout came. There was a trace of immaturity in the voice, but there was also a trace of majesty from the bloodline. "Kill." A long halberd turned into a thick mist and slashed towards the beast cultivator. Bloodline pressure, a top-rank race. The beast cultivator screamed with a trace of fear. He hurriedly took out a pair of curved blades shaped like the fangs of a giant beast and blocked the long halberd. Only then did he see that the other end of the long halberd was actually held in the hands of an extremely disproportionate 11 or 12-year-old boy. The beast cultivator grinned and said, "So it's just a top-rank race that hasn't reached adulthood yet. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you and hide your bloodline? The boy didn't speak, but his small face was tense. He put away the long halberd in his hand, then stabbed forward again, and continued to shout, "Kill!" The beast cultivator once again blocked the long halberd. Although his cultivation was at the late core forging stage, far superior to the boy in front of him who was only at the 5th layer of core forging stage, how could a top-rank monster race cultivator who had not reached adulthood go out to gain experience without an adult accompanying him? However, after the beast cultivator's divine sense swept over, he still didn't find anything. The demonic cultivator was delighted. Could it be that this child had really come out to play on his own? But then the demonic cultivator felt a chill in his heart. He didn't notice anything unusual with his divine sense just now, but this child suddenly appeared in front of him and attacked him. Since this was the case, it was impossible that there was no one in the surroundings. Just as this thought flashed through the demon cultivator's mind, a shadow flashed through the white mist. The demon cultivator couldn't see the face of the newcomer clearly, but a pair of snow-white daggers in the newcomer's hands flashed with a cold light as they stabbed toward him. The cultivation world of the plains was far more prosperous than the cultivation world of Hebei. The most prominent manifestation of this was the fact that there were two major sects in the cultivation world of the plains. The Tianxian sect was an old major sect in the plains, and its long history was even comparable to that of the Ying Tian sect in the past. Moreover, the Tianxian sect could be said to have been prosperous for a long time. Although it had never challenged the authority of the 5 holy lands of the central mainland, there had never been less than 3 Dharma adepts in the sect. Now, the Tianxian sect even had 4 Dharma adepts. It could be said that it was a major power in the central mainland's cultivation world. The Tianxian sect was the second largest sect in the plains. This sect rose 5,000 years ago and had always been stubbornly developing under the suppression of the Tianxian sect. This sect had even gained the strength of a major sect in one fell swoop 3,000 years ago due to a great opportunity. For 3,000 years, the legacy of the Tianxian sect had never maintained the power of a major sect, but it had never been able to shake off the influence of the Tianxian sect in the cultivation world. However, in these 3,000 years, the status of the Tianxian sect as a major power had been recognized by the vast majority of the central mainland cultivators. The only thing it lacked was the recognition of the 5 holy lands of the central mainland. Just as Lu Ping learned from Zhenren Jiyuhan and Zhenren Liuyun that the 2 black-robed cultivators were actually the Tianxian sect cultivators of the plains, a light suddenly flashed in Lu Ping's mind. It seemed that in an instant, he had figured out the cause and effect. However, at this point, even if the 2 sides stopped fighting, they could no longer resolve the entanglement between them. The Tianxian sect cultivators had schemed against the cultivators of the Hebei province, which had angered the public. Moreover, from the information they had overheard through Lu Ping's Cloudlight 5 Elements robe, it seemed that the Tianxian sect was plotting something bigger than just that ambush. The black-clothed senior martial brother was able to withstand several of Lu Ping's attacks. Although he was at a disadvantage, his strength couldn't be underestimated. And with the great mystery gold fan in his hand, it wouldn't be too difficult for Lu Ping to defeat the black-clothed senior martial brother in a short period of time, but it would be much more difficult to kill him. On the other side of the battlefield, although Zhenren Jiyuhan and Zhenren Liuyun had joined forces to gain the upper hand, the profound godly lightsaber was a magic treasure that was far more powerful than the profound gold fan. Their combined strength was no match for Lu Ping. Even with the help of 2 injured cultivators with less than half of their original strength, it would be even more difficult for them to defeat the black-robed junior brother. After all, the lush jade swamp was a crowded place. Lu Ping and Zhenren Jiyuhan had ambushed the 2 Tianxian sect cultivators here and caused such a ruckus that it was hard to guarantee that no one would come looking for them. He had to finish the battle quickly. Countless thoughts flashed through Lu Ping's mind. The faintly limpid sword entangled the profound gold fan, the landslide continued to exert pressure on the top of the black-robed senior brother's head, and the elusive nether aqua sword also consumed a great deal of the black-robed senior brother's energy. Not only was he competing with Lu Ping in terms of strength, he was also competing with Lu Ping in terms of primary essence. Lu Ping already knew that the black-robed senior brother was already an arrow at the end of its flight. The strength that Lu Ping was displaying had already caused Zhenren Jiyuhun and Zhenren Liuyun to raise their eyebrows. However, Lu Ping seemed to think that he had not revealed enough of his strength. A magnificent sword light rose up and, under the black-robed senior brother's horrified gaze, it seemed as though it was about to cover up the entire five-colored mist. Naturally, Lu Ping would not use the sword of primary essence, a divine ability of the Koi clan, at a time like this. Instead, he displayed the Thousand Snowpile sword technique, which transformed into waves of swords that charged towards the black-robed senior brother. Without saying a word, the black-robed senior brother pulled out a golden-colored talisman from his robes and tossed it above his head. Lu Ping's eyes narrowed. It was a talisman weapon. However, Lu Ping did not retreat. Instead, the flood-like sword light became even sharper. The talisman weapon rose into the air and immediately formed a huge golden door. A look of surprise flashed in Lu Ping's eyes. It was actually a talisman weapon like this. This person was trying to escape. With a thought from Lu Ping, countless waves of swords rose up into the air. Within the torrent of swords, countless waves rolled up and formed a huge sword of light that slashed towards the golden door. Lu Ping could clearly sense that this golden door had already connected to the space that the cloudy rainbow robe had connected to. However, he was currently unable to control the power of space. That was something that only Dharma adepts could do. The black-robed senior brother looked at Lu Ping's sword light and his heart palpitated for no reason. Although he did not believe that Lu Ping would be able to break this door of space after all, this was the power of a Dharma adept, he did not dare to be careless. He lowered his head and rushed into the door. The huge sword slashed down and split the door in half. However, the black-robed senior brother still managed to escape through this door. The remaining half of the door flashed and finally dissipated in mid-air. After the door disappeared, a golden talisman weapon slowly fell from the sky. Lu Ping's eyes lit up. This talisman weapon had actually been left behind. He reached out and kept the talisman weapon. With a sweep of his divine will, he found that the talisman weapon was actually undamaged. This was a life-saving item. As long as the talisman weapon was activated in a critical moment, it could form a door of space. A practitioner could enter it and escape from danger. Originally, this talisman weapon would disappear with the practitioner after he escaped. However, Lu Ping's sword had actually torn the door of space apart. Although the black-robed senior brother had managed to escape with his life through one half of the door, this talisman weapon did not disappear with him. After all, it was a good item created by Fa Xiong Laozu. Although the Cloudlight 5 Elements robe was marvelous, it could not conceal Fa Xiong Laozu's methods. Just as the black-robed senior brother used the teleportation talisman weapon, the black-robed junior brother on the other side took out the Taishen divine lightsaber and slashed out several times in succession, causing spiritual master Ji Yu-hun and the others to flee in all directions. The black-robed junior brother took the opportunity to open a hole in the Cloudlight 5 Elements robe and escape. The Taishen divine lightsaber was a spirit-nurturing level magic treasure. Although the Cloudlight 5 Elements robe was marvelous, it did not dare to clash head-on with a flying sword of the same level. But how could Lu Ping let him succeed? The power of the fated Autumn Waters sword was even greater than a spirit-nurturing magic treasure that had condensed 8 treasure seals. Lu Ping took advantage of the situation and slashed out horizontally, cutting down the opponent's sword light midway. Meanwhile, the black-robed junior brother suddenly took out an escape talisman weapon. A golden door rose up and the black-robed junior brother quickly dove into it. The door flashed and disappeared, but this time, the talisman weapon was not left behind. Lu Ping performed a hand seal and the surrounding mist quickly gathered inside. Then, a gauze robe formed from the mist and draped over Lu Ping's back before disappearing. Not far away, spiritual master Ji Yu-hun, spiritual master Liu Yun, and the 2 injured cultivators all had grave expressions on their faces. Normally, the 2 of them would have praised Lu Ping for his methods. But at this time, the 4 of them were clearly preoccupied and had no intention of staying here any longer. Brother Shenping, The actions of the Supreme Mystery Sect this time really exceeded the expectations of the various sects. We must pass on the news to the Laozu of our respective sects so that they can make early preparations. This trip to the Yingyu swamp is fraught with danger. Brother Xianping should meet up with the Laozu of Tianshan as soon as possible and inform him of what happened here. Lu Ping nodded. Brother Jiyu is right, but it is strange that the Supreme Mystery Sect would scheme against the various sects of the cultivation world of Hebei. I believe that the Supreme Mystery Sect alone would not be able to do so. When spiritual master Jiyu Hun learned that the one who schemed against them was actually the famous Taishen sect of the plain cultivation world, he was the first to panic. Otherwise, the black-robed junior brother would not have escaped so easily when the four of them besieged him. Spiritual master Jiyu Hun was an outstanding figure of the Jiyu clan. After hearing Lu Ping's reminder, he immediately realized something. After cupping his hands in thanks to Lu Ping, he said, "In that case, we will go first. Brother Xianping, please take care of yourself." Chapter 737. The demonic cultivator really didn't expect that he would be forced into such a situation by 3 mid-core forging realm kids. In any case, he was an 8th-layer core forging realm expert from a high-grade demon clan. Although he had obtained some superficial inheritance from the beast-taming sect and knew some beast-taming techniques, his strength wasn't considered high among cultivators of the same level. But with the help of his vicious beasts, his strength was indeed considerable. However, this method was ineffective in front of these 3 little guys. Top-grade demon clans. Which family did they belong to? They actually allowed such young clansmen to come out and gain experience. Weren't they afraid of accidents? Although the demonic cultivator's heart was filled with endless resentment, the fact was that he was unexpectedly taken advantage of by these 3 little guys. Even now, he still hadn't recovered from his shock. The main reason for this was the identity of these top-grade demon beasts. If it was a cultivator from the beast-taming sect, he might be able to command his vicious beasts to attack these 3 little guys. But now, when the vicious beasts he summoned came into contact with the aura of these 3 little guys' top-grade demon beasts, they didn't dare to attack them no matter what the demonic cultivator did. "Which family are you 3 brats from?" The demonic cultivator was aggrieved to death. He was a dignified 8th-layer core forging realm expert, but half of his abilities were useless in front of these 3 little brats. "Hateful top-grade bloodlines. If I kill these 3, I must seize their bloodlines. When that time comes, I'll flee far away. Even if there's a huge force behind these 3, I won't be able to care so much." A flying whip suddenly lashed out from the wind. The demonic cultivator didn't have time to vent his anger and quickly dodged to the side. However, a pair of ice daggers just happened to appear where he dodged. The demonic cultivator hastily put up a defensive magic treasure in front of him. Ding, ding. 2 crisp sounds rang out and the demonic cultivator staggered 2 steps to the side. Kill. The little boy still held the halberd with both hands and engaged in melee combat. A huge force burst out from the halberd. The demonic cultivator felt as if his chest had been hit by a heavy blow and the defensive magic treasure in front of him began to crack. This Shia Hai's true essence was so dense. This was truly a cultivator at the 5th layer of core forging. Could it be that the bloodline of a peak-level demonic cultivator could be so different? At this moment, a long cry came from the sky. The Yarrow cultivator's expression changed, and when he looked up, he saw a huge black shadow through the thick fog. It seemed to be a huge bird. Then, the fog suddenly broke apart, and a pair of huge golden claws reached out, grabbing at the Yarrow cultivator's head. A chuckle could be heard. "Ling look. You still need me to make a move." The demon cultivator hurriedly placed a protective Dharma treasure over his head. However, under Samling's continuous attacks, the demon cultivator had no strength left to resist. Lu China transformed into her original form and swooped down from the sky. She already had great strength, and she cultivated both wind and fire. She was Lu Ping's #1 spiritual pet. After accumulating her strength for a blow, the beast cultivator was forced to kneel on the ground. Lu Hai took advantage of the situation. With a stab and a twist of the halberd, the yarrow cultivator could not dodge in time and could only roll on the ground. However, he was still a step too late, and one of his arms had been cut off by the halberd. A delicate snort came from the thick fog. Sister Qin, that's not necessarily true. This arm was cut off by my second brother. After that, a pair of sharp blades with a slight whistling sound pierced through the thick fog. Although the yarrow cultivator found something wrong, he still could not completely avoid it. 2 wounds appeared on his right ribs, and suddenly blood flowed out. In the sky, Lu Qin was about to say something, but she saw a long whip suddenly appear without any warning. It wrapped around the neck of the yarrow cultivator. Before the yarrow cultivator showed a look of despair, the long whip was retracted, and a head flew into the sky. The ice blade spun in the air, and was suddenly held by a pair of small hands that stretched out from the thick fog. Lu Ling proudly revealed her figure, and giggled towards the sky. Sister Qin, how is it? This guy still died in our hands in the end. The black shadow in the sky suddenly disappeared, and then Lu Qin, who had transformed into a human form, slowly descended from the thick fog. She said unforgivingly, if it wasn't for my attack just now, Lu Hai, that stupid kid, found the opportunity. A gust of wind swept up from the thick fog, and Lu Bai materialized from the wind. You 2 careless ghosts, why don't you look at what's on that person's shoulder? The 2 little girls were stunned when they heard this. They turned to look at the headless corpse of the yarrow cultivator. There was a thin needle on the clothes on the shoulder. Little Zilan, the 2 of them cried out in surprise. Then, they heard a faint buzzing sound, and a crisp voice giggled, Sisters, I've taken advantage of you. The purple crystal bee Queen Zilan flapped the pair of transparent wings on her back and flew out of the fog. Lu Ling looked at Zilan and smiled. Sister Zilan, your queen bee needle is getting more and more powerful. Not only can it avoid the probing of a cultivator's divine sense, it can also easily pierce through a cultivator's protective aura. It's impossible to guard against. Lu Bai nodded and said, if it wasn't so, I wouldn't have been able to easily entangle this person with the long whip just now. It's just that this person's cultivation is much higher than ours. It's easy to kill him, but it's extremely difficult to capture him. Otherwise, if Father used the soul-searching secret technique, he might be able to find out some other secrets. Hey, you guys are always so rash in doing things. In the future, you have to learn from Lu Bai. When you encounter something, you have to think more. Don't think that you can win so easily. Lu Ping's voice came from a distance. The surrounding thick fog gradually dissipated, and finally returned to the thin layer of fog that was common in the Yingyu swamp. Lu Ping took the beast cultivator's storage mystic instrument from Lu Hai's hand and found 2 jade slips inside. He scanned one of them with his divine sense and threw it back into his own storage mystic instrument. The other one raised his eyebrows and looked at it carefully. After a while, Lu Ping suddenly realized. He crushed the jade slip into powder and threw it on the ground. Then he picked out 2 top-grade spirit stones from the storage magic tool and said happily, the central region is really rich. Are top-grade spirit stones so common among late-core forging stage cultivators? Lu Ping didn't care about the rest of the things. He threw the storage magic tool to Lu Hai and said, you guys can keep the things inside if you like them. As for the rest, just let Dabao keep them. I'll pick first. Lu Linga jumped and snatched the storage magic tool from Lu Hai's hand, and then rummaged through it for a while. At this time, Lu Ping's divine sense seemed to feel something. He looked at the space beside him and saw a fluctuation in the space in front of him. A purple jade slip jumped out of the rippling space. Lu Ping took the jade slip and then cast a secret Zhenling technique. The ripples in the space were quickly smoothed out. The jade slip in his hand burst into a burst of light. Then, Lu Ping's divine sense could penetrate into the inside of the jade slip. After a long time, Lu Ping reached out and opened the door of the golden house. He said to one of his spirit pets, let's go. I'm going to murder people for money. When the time comes, I'll need your help. When the spirit pets heard that they had another chance to bully someone, they all happily entered the golden house. Lu Ping's divine sense swept out and determined the direction. He then turned into a cloud of mist and escaped into the depths of the Yingyu swamp. The Huayu clan was one of the 12 small forces in the Hebei training world. However, the Huayu clan was much stronger than the Yingshan Immortal Academy and the Shanyu clan. 6,000 years ago, the Huayu sect now had 4 early Dharma adepts in the sect, and they were considered one of the best among the 12 small sects. The only thing the Huayu sect lacked was a mid-Dharma adept. Once one of the 4 Laozu entered the mid-Dharma stage, the Huayu clan would reach the minimum standard of a medium force. This time, the Huayu clan was on the side of the Lingwu clan because the Lingwu clan had promised that once the Lingwu clan became a large sect, they would use secret techniques to help Laozu, Yang Chongyu of the Huayu clan, overcome the early Dharma stage and reach the mid-Dharma stage. They would support the Huayu clan to become a medium force in the Hebei training world. The reason why the Huayu clan was helping the Lingwu clan this time was not only because of this promise. It was also because the Lingwu clan had hinted to the Taishen sect in the Plains training world that they would also support the Lingwu clan to become a large force. The Taishen sect was a powerful force. If not for the suppression of the Tianxian sect in the Plains training world, the Tianxian sect would have become a large force long ago. Even so, the Tianxian sect had been suppressed by the Tianxian sect for a long time. They had been able to maintain the strength of a large force for 3,000 years. This showed how deep the roots of the Tianxian sect were. If they had the support of such a sect, it would not be a problem for the Lingwu clan to become a large force. As for the other sects in the Hebei training world who opposed the Lingwu clan's promotion, they would not be able to cause much trouble under the suppression of these 2 sects. If it was said that the Huayu sect did not want the Spirit Martial sect to advance any further, then the situation of the Hebei cultivation world restraining each other would definitely be broken, and with the support of the 5 Holy Lands, the Huayu sect would definitely be able to dominate the Hebei cultivation world. It was just that the Huayu clan saw that the rise of the Lingwu clan was inevitable. Coupled with the temptation of becoming a mid-Dharma adept, the Huayu clan might as well choose to fight now. In the future, if the Lingwu clan began to purge the Hebei training world, the Huayu clan would also be able to take credit. This time, the Huayu clan had participated in the Battle of the Lush Jade Swamp. Among the 81 practitioners, 2 had reached the 9th level of the core forging stage, and the other 2 had reached the 8th level. They were the elites of the Huayu clan. After the 81 practitioners entered the Lush Jade Swamp, they followed behind the 25 ancestors. They followed the 25 Laozu's path and wiped out Mara along the way. The 4 members of the Huayu clan gathered together and worked together. Just as the 4 of them killed 2 beasts that were lying in ambush in the swamp, one of the 8th level core forging stage cultivators complained, "At this time, killing Mara is still killing beasts. Didn't this Mara already occupy the Lush Jade Swamp? Why didn't he kill all these beasts?" Before the cultivator could finish his words, he abruptly stopped. He struggled to look at his chest and saw the tip of a sword protruding 3 inches from his chest. There was not a single trace of blood on the tip of the sword. It was as smooth as a mirror. "How dare you? Who is it? Damn it!" 3 cries of alarm sounded out at the same time. However, the cultivator's life could no longer be preserved. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and confusion. Who was it? Chapter 738. Did Lu Ping have the talent to be an assassin? Zhenling's number 1 assassin, Li Shenyan, had successfully injured Shenling sect's Dharma Laozu when he was only at the late core forging stage. If he had not been betrayed at the last moment, Li Shenyan might have been able to create the legend of assassinating Dharma Laozu. Although Li Xuanin's legacy had been inherited by Yin Shenchu, now that Yin Shenchu had broken out of the sect, Zhenling's legacy in this area was already on the verge of being cut off. Although Lu Ping did not know much about this legacy, the fog that filled the sky was a natural hiding place for Lu Ping. The fog was formed from water vapor, and the art of traveling through clouds and summoning rain that Lu Ping practiced could be used to control the fog within a radius of a few miles. The 4 Huayu sect practitioners had been too careless. In a place as dangerous as the Lush Jade Swamp, They had only set up a protective layer of vigor around themselves as protection. If it had been Lu Ping, he would have definitely set up a protective layer of vigor around himself as a last resort. The water-controlling flag was also connected to his will and could be summoned at any time. Furthermore, Lu Ping was wearing the 5 elements cloudy robe. Did these 4 people really think that no one would come to provoke them? Lu Ping very quickly discovered another advantage of his assassination skills, and that was the range of his divine will. The range of attack of a practitioner's treasure was largely dependent on the strength of the practitioner's divine will. An early Dharma adept's divine will could cover at least a radius of 10 miles, but Lu Ping's divine will was far stronger than that of an ordinary early Dharma adept, and he could see everything within a radius of 20 miles. Although Lu Ping was still unable to wield spatial powers like Dharma adepts, he was still able to wield his divine will and turn the area into a place where Dharma adepts' attacks could reach. However, with the help of his flying sword, Lu Ping was still able to attack within a 2-mile radius of his surroundings. After using the aqua sword, in order to cover up the sound of the flying sword, Lu Ping once again reduced the distance of his sneak attack by half. Using the 5 elements cloudy robe as a cover, he successfully snuck to within a distance of a mile of the 4 and sent the aqua sword into the back of the Huayu sect practitioner with the lowest level of training. After the successful sneak attack, Lu Ping was no longer hidden from the crowd. The remaining 3 Huayu sect cultivators besieged Lu Ping, vowing to tear him into 1,000 pieces. Lu Ping's body was completely exposed to the crowd. Shocked and enraged, the remaining 3 Huayu sect cultivators surrounded him, vowing to tear him into pieces. Lu Ping used the Raging Waves Crashing Shore technique with one hand, maintaining the pressure on the 3 Huayu sect practitioners. This sword technique was best suited for group battles, and the fated Autumn Dew sword was a dual flying sword of the spirit cultivation level, so the power of this sword technique was even greater. His other hand used the Shapeless sword technique. This sword technique, with the aqua sword's ability to appear and disappear unpredictably, was used to its fullest potential, making it impossible to defend against. One of the 9th level core forging disciples saw that his 8th level core forging junior brother had been so easily sent flying by Lu Ping. His anger was mixed with fear, and he shouted, "Who are you? How dare you kill a disciple of my Huayu sect? Aren't you afraid of our sect's Laozu's thunderous rage?" As soon as he finished speaking, the cultivator's complexion changed and he hastily retreated. At the same time, he took out a curtain-like defensive magic treasure and placed it beside him. Ding dang! A dark blue flying sword cut through 3 bead chains in a row before retreating exhausted. Of the 3 people surrounding Lu Ping, 2 were forced to retreat. The remaining 9th level core forging cultivator immediately sensed that something was wrong, but it was already too late. Lu Ping immediately focused all of his energy on suppressing this person. A majestic sword light descended from the sky. The person's magic treasure was only able to withstand one attack from Lu Ping before it was destroyed. The 2 flying swords cut off the person's path of retreat. At this time, the 2 people who were forced back by Lu Ping realized their mistakes. They wanted to turn around and attack Lu Ping again, but it was already too late. The cultivator only felt a chill on his neck. When he looked up again, he felt the sky turn upside down. With great difficulty, he finally saw his own body, but there was something missing. Senior brother Seng. The 8th level core forging cultivator's trembling voice carried a trace of a sob. "No, you deserve to die." The remaining 9th level core forging cultivator crushed a purple talisman in his hand. A silver beam of light shot up into the sky, then turned into a meteor and disappeared in the southern sky. The corners of Lu Ping's mouth curled into a smile. The 2 flying swords turned into a torrent of swordsmanship, sending the 8th level core forging cultivator flying several tens of feet away. Without waiting for him to recover, the torrent of swordsmanship chased after him for another several tens of feet. Although Lu Ping's torrent of swordsmanship didn't kill the 8th level core forging cultivator, the cultivator was unable to retaliate and was sent flying several kilometers away by Lu Ping. As for the other 9th level core forging cultivator, he was completely ignored by Lu Ping. He watched as his junior brother was sent flying several kilometers away by Lu Ping like a toy. Although the cultivator had doubts in his heart, his friendship with his fellow disciples allowed him to overcome the hesitation in his heart. He followed far behind Lu Ping, not daring to step forward to rescue him. After about half a cup of tea's time, a long howl came from the horizon. When the howl stopped, a spatial portal opened at the spot where Lu Ping killed the first cultivator. An old man with black hair and white eyebrows stepped out from the spatial portal. Then, his divine sense swept across a radius of more than 10 miles. The old man was stunned for a moment, then his expression darkened. He said, "The three of you have tricked the old man into coming here. Why do you have to resort to such underhanded methods like kidnapping me? Ha ha." A long laugh came from the depths of the thick fog. "Fellow Qinghua, your level of practice is indeed worthy of being the most likely person in the Huayu sect to advance to the mid-Dharma stage in the past few thousand years." The fog slowly parted to the sides. A middle-aged cultivator with a weathered face but a tall and straight figure strode out from the fog. It was the eldest disciple of the second generation of Zhenling, Liang Tianfeng Laozu. The black-haired, white-eyebrowed Qinghua Laozu laughed coldly. "The three of you did not call the old man here to praise the old man, did you?" The fog behind Qinghua Laozu suddenly turned red. A violent snort could be heard. Chu Tiancheng Laozu had already used his powers to disrupt the stability of the surrounding space, cutting off his escape route. This was to prevent Qinghua Laozu from using his powers to escape. "We have set up this trap to take your life, fellow Qinghua." Chu Tiancheng Laozu did not hold back. Red flames leaped out from the void and burned in all directions, gradually surrounding Qinghua Laozu. Qinghua Laozu's expression changed. He was rather fearful of this Dharma adept who was surrounded by flames. However, Qinghua Laozu naturally could not show any weakness at this time. Rays of strange light began to flash around his body. Why is there another friend not showing himself? Could it be that you are afraid of meeting me face to face? Or could it be that this friend knows me? None of these Dharma adepts had much to think about. Just by thinking about it, they could guess the whole story. "Why are you talking so much nonsense? Let's fight first." Chu Tiancheng Laozu pushed his hands forward, and the raging flames seemed to burn the entire void red. The light around Qinghua Laozu increased at the same time, and they were locked in a stalemate in mid-air with the red flames. Liang Tianfeng Laozu chuckled. His hands flicked out, and a series of wind wheels cut towards Qinghua Laozu from all directions. The heavens and the earth shook, and the void was in turmoil. At this time, the Huayu sect 8th level core forging adept, who had been hit by Lu Ping, was already unconscious. However, he was still alive. The Huayu sect 9th layer core forging realm disciple had been following Lu Ping from afar, but he didn't have the courage to rescue his junior brother. He had already sensed something was amiss. But at this moment, a powerful aura suddenly erupted from a few dozen miles behind him. The Huayu sect adept was shocked, and immediately realized something. He turned around and was about to fly in the direction of the battle behind him. However, just as he turned around, he saw a person standing in front of him, smiling. If it was not the friar who had kicked his junior like a ball, who else could it be? The Huayu sect adept subconsciously looked back at the person who had kicked his junior like a ball, but the person behind him was still excitedly displaying his torrent of sword techniques. Before the adept could figure out what was going on, Lu Ping's dual flying swords had already pierced towards his chest. Even in death, this adept could not understand why there were two Lu Pings in front of him. Lu Ping looked behind him. The battle 10 kilometers away was becoming more and more intense. Although Lu Ping's divine sense was tyrannical, it could not detect the situation 10 kilometers away. However, he could vaguely sense that there were at least 3 Lu Pings fighting. Just as Lu Ping was hesitating about whether or not to go forward to investigate, another tyrannical aura appeared in the middle of the battle. The moment this aura appeared, it was like a towering mountain, giving people the illusion that everything was suppressed. Guo Tianshan Laozu had made his move. "It's you. It's actually you. You actually dare to provoke my Huayu sect. Could it be that you..." Ah! A miserable cry rang out, and then the sky was filled with a bloody light that dyed the fog red. A streak of light flew in the direction of Lu Ping. Not good. This person's escape technique is very overbearing. We must not let him escape today. Otherwise, there will be a great disaster in the future. Liang Tianfeng Laozu's voice contained a hint of urgency. Then, a whirlwind rose up and chased closely behind the blood-red light. Behind the whirlwind, an earthen yellow light and a scarlet streak of light also appeared. However, the distance between them and the blood-red streak of light grew. Lu Ping watched as the blood-red streak of light charged in his direction. Naturally, Lu Ping knew that Guotianshan Laozu's identity had been exposed. If he allowed Qinghua Laozu to escape, the Yingshan Immortal Academy would be doomed eternally. Lu Ping hesitated for a moment. In the end, he mustered up his courage and poured his quintessential essence into the dual flying swords. Then, he slashed at the blood-red streak of light. Chapter 739. Although Lu Ping had always been trying to guess how strong he really was, he had once defeated the 3 heroes of the Jiyu clan, who had once withstood a blow from a Dharma adept, and he had once defeated the Green Fox 9 bandits, who had heavily injured Dharma adept Laozu. However, regrettably, Lu Ping had never personally fought with Dharma adept Laozu. Now, Lu Ping finally had the chance to face a real Dharma adept alone. Although this Dharma adept was already heavily injured, Lu Ping knew that a cornered beast would still fight, and an injured tiger would often become even more ferocious in order to survive. Lu Ping had never thought that his first fight with a Dharma adept would be under such circumstances. After Lu Ping had tamed the beautiful Autumn Waters sword, he used the great sword technique that Lu Ping had not been able to use to its full potential, the 100 Rivers into the Sea technique for the first time. A pair of flying swords circled in the sky, forming a huge whirlpool of sword light. The center of the whirlpool was like a huge mouth, and the edge of the whirlpool was like a huge meat grinder, wanting to kill all the enemies it faced in the most despairing way possible. The blood-red flowing light no longer had any space to escape. The green flowing light behind him followed closely. If he stopped for even a moment, he would be tightly entangled by the person behind him. He wanted to escape. As long as he escaped, he could spread the news that he was in cahoots with Guotianshan of the Yingshan Immortal Courtyard. Then, the final victor would be himself. The Yingshan Immortal Courtyard was definitely scheming something big. He had already seen that the person blocking him was only a late core forging adept, so he had not paid much attention to him. However, after Lu Ping displayed his powerful swordsmanship, Qinghua Laozu was finally shocked. However, he secretly comforted himself. How could a late core forging adept control such a powerful technique? Perhaps it was just an empty shell. If you want to scare the old man will really break your technique. You are just an ant. Not everyone can stop a mantis trying to stop a chariot. The blood-red flowing light crashed into the whirlpool of sword light. There was a cry of surprise as layers of blood-red light were peeled off by the sword light. Every time the sword light flew out of the blood-red light, it would bring along a patch of blood-red light. The blood-red escape light obviously didn't expect this whirlpool-like sword formation to have such power. A layer of cyan light burst out of the blood-red escape light, but it became dimmer and dimmer in the face of the swarming golden light. As the flowing light went deeper and deeper into the whirlpool, the green light finally dissipated. The sword light around its body surged up again. Within the flowing light, it once again brought out a spirit-level magic treasure. However, the moment it was brought out, it was shredded to pieces by Lu Ping's thousands of sword lights. Qinghua Laozu was a Dharma adept, but at this critical moment, he had only brought out a spirit-level defensive magic treasure. It was clear that under the combined attacks of Guotianshan and the other 2 Laozu, this Laozu's defensive magic treasures had been mostly used up. However, the flowing light used this last bit of resistance to finally break through the encirclement of the whirlpool of sword light and escaped from the center of the whirlpool. However, what greeted it was not Lu Ping's panic-stricken face. Instead, it was another blue sword light that seemed to pierce through the sky. It was the true Yuan sword qi that was wielded with all its strength by the Changlu sword, a spirit-nurturing magic treasure. True Yuan sword qi, the inherited swordsmanship of the Yulon River's Khoi clan. You are actually from the Yulon River's demon clan. An angry roar came from within the blood-red flowing light. The roar was filled with endless madness. He already knew that he had completely underestimated this person in front of him, who was only at the 8th level of the core forging stage. This level of swordsmanship was enough to compete with him. What's more, he knew that he would not be able to escape death today. The 3 flowing lights behind him had already caught up to him while he was breaking through the whirlpool of swordsmanship. Liang Tianfeng Laozu stood in front of him, while the other 2 flowing lights surrounded him from behind. However, for some reason, the 3 of them only surrounded him from afar and did not immediately attack him. Could it be that this core forging adept was not in cahoots with the 3 of them? This thought flashed through Qinghua Laozu's mind and was immediately extinguished. Whether this person was in cahoots with the 3 or not, he would not be able to escape death today. Since that was the case, he would take this core forging minor repairs with him to the grave. Although the strength that Lu Ping had displayed was far beyond Qinghua Laozu's expectations, Qinghua Laozu was still confident that he could kill the minor repairs in front of him. It was precisely because of Lu Ping that Qinghua Laozu had lost his last hope of escaping. How could Qinghua Laozu not hate Lu Ping to the bone? However, Qinghua Laozu had once again neglected the fact that this essential Yuan sword strike was not so easy to receive, especially since Qinghua Laozu's strength had already been greatly reduced and Lu Ping had been waiting for him to exhaust himself. Lu Ping's sword strike had sent Qinghua Laozu flying out of the light, and Lu Ping had also been sent flying into Guotianshan Laozu's encirclement by Qinghua Laozu's full-force attack. The water-controlling flag above his head flickered, and the white lotuses that flowed in the curtain of light were destroyed one by one. The cloud-light 5 elements robe rose up around Lu Ping's body, and the 5 elements interacted with each other, neutralizing Qinghua Laozu's attack. Even so, Lu Ping still felt a huge force pass through the 7 layers of protective upstanding qi and land on his chest. Even though the strength of Lu Ping's body was no less than that of a Dharma adept, he still felt waves of annoyance and disgust, and his face was drained of all color. Qinghua Laozu's blood evasion technique had been completely broken by Lu Ping, and after the backlash, he had been shaken by Lu Ping's full-force attack. After his Dharma power had left his body, he had been forced back into the core space by Lu Ping's sword light. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and this injury had completely destroyed Qinghua Laozu's foundation. Qinghua Laozu's face was purple gold, and he wiped away the blood that had streaks of gold at the corner of his mouth. He looked fiercely in the direction of Guotianshan, who was surrounded by the other 2 Laozus, and said, "I never thought that the power behind your Yingshan Immortal Academy would be the Yulon River demons. You, Guotianshan, are a Dharma adept, but you are working with a tiger. If this matter is known by the Hebei training world, your Yingshan Immortal Academy will definitely be reduced to dust." Guotianshan Laozu smiled slightly and said, "Friend Qinghua, you can go ahead. Just like you said, if this matter is known by the Hebei training world, our Yingshan Immortal Academy will be in big trouble. But now that you are dead, who will know that our Yingshan Immortal Academy has made a deal with the Yulon River demons?" Lu Ping, who was standing outside the encirclement, was slightly taken aback when he heard this. He had interfered to stop Qinghua Laozu because he had no other choice. Before this, the 3 Laozus had also not planned to shift the blame to the Yulon River demons. Now, Guotianshan Laozu was obviously playing along. After Lu Ping had used the Yulon River demons' remarkable swordsmanship, he had conveniently shifted the blame to the Yulon River demons. But how could he successfully shift the blame? After all, Guotianshan Laozu had already been seen through by Qinghua Laozu. Did he really have to expose the Yingshan Immortal Academy as a sacrificial pawn? In the end, Qinghua Laozu's blood vessels were all shattered by Liang Tianfeng Laozu's extremely strange remarkable power. Lu Ping looked at Liang Tianfeng Laozu in shock. Lu Ping was all too familiar with this remarkable power. Liang Tianfeng Laozu looked at the astonished Lu Ping and said with a smile, "Are you wondering how I can use this kind of ability?" Lu Ping nodded. He saw that Chu Tiancheng Laozu and Guotianshan Laozu also revealed a slight smile. Liang Tianfeng Laozu smiled proudly and said, This kind of ability that can shatter a person's blood vessels originally originated from the Yulon River demons of the Central Plains. I don't know how, but this secret technique spread to the North Sea and was obtained by the North Sea demons. Afterwards, they used it to deal with the cultivators of the various sects in the North Sea, causing many cultivators to die of old age due to the shattering of their blood vessels and the destruction of their cultivation. Lu Ping asked with some surprise, this kind of divine ability actually originated from the Yulon River demons. Didn't we discuss before to provoke a conflict between the spirit martial sect and the various sects in Hebei? Could it be that the Laozu already had the idea of framing the demons? Guo Tianshan Laozu smiled and explained, this is also a change in the situation. The Yulon River demons have already entered the Yulon swamp to encircle the Shura, but the two sides seem to have a tacit understanding and have maintained a good restraint on each other. It's just that it would be a pity if this tacit understanding was not broken. Guo Tianshan Laozu paused for a moment, then said, as for this kind of divine ability, it was only discovered after a long period of exploration by several Laozu and cultivators who were proficient in the secret arts of the various sects. Although it is not exactly the same, it can still be similar. Ordinary cultivators would not be able to distinguish it clearly, and it just so happens that the sword technique divine ability that you used is actually the inherited sword technique divine ability of the Yulon River's Khoi clan. This can be said to be twice the result with half the effort. Senior brother Liang's imitation divine ability is fake, but your sword technique divine ability is real. Lu Ping said in agreement, if we can incite a conflict between the Yulon River demons and the Hebei cultivation world, we can indeed stir up the situation in the swamp even more. However, this will inevitably cause the Hebei cultivation world to unite against a common enemy. If the spirit martial sect takes advantage of this opportunity and unifies the Hebei cultivation world to fight against the demons, it will not be good. Liang Tianfeng Laozu and the others looked at each other, and then Liang Tianfeng Laozu asked with a smile, oh, do you have another idea? Seeing that the three Laozu were so affectionate, Lu Ping knew that they had already come up with a countermeasure. He smiled and said, I just happened to meet Jiyu Hun of the Jiyu clan and Daoist Master Liu Yun of the Cloud Capital sect. These four people were colluding with a demon cultivator who was proficient in beast taming techniques to kill them. Although I saved 4 of them, 2 of them have been seriously injured, and 2 of them have already fallen. This enmity is not small. A glimmer of light flashed in the eyes of the 3 Laozu. Lu Ping smiled and continued, after that, my spirit pet ambushed the demon cultivator, but I obtained a jade slip from the demon cultivator's body. It was a demon cultivator killer that the spirit martial sect had privately found. Originally, I wanted to use this demon cultivator to obtain some of the inheritance of the beast-controlling spirit sect. After killing the cultivators of the various sects, I can use it to divert my attention. However, this person is actually working together with the cultivators of the Supreme Profound sect to attack the disciples of the Jiyu clan and the Cloud Capital sect. What does this mean? I never thought that the Spirit Martial sect would actually collude with the Supreme Profound sect. Chu Tiancheng Laozu's face was first shocked, and then he slowly said, that's right. If these two sects collude together, even if we successfully provoke a conflict between the various sects and the Spirit Martial sect, we might not be able to stop the Spirit Martial sect from becoming a large power. Guo Tianshan Laozu also had a lingering fear in his heart. But now that we know the news of these two sects secretly forming an alliance, it's like someone sent a pillow to us when we were sleepy. The muddier the jade swamp, the better. Liang Tianfeng Laozu laughed and said, I don't know if the various sects in Hebei suddenly discovered that the Spirit Martial sect was secretly in contact with the Supreme Profound sect of the Plain Cultivation world, and the Spirit Martial sect suddenly discovered that the Hua Yu sect's Dharma cultivator, Qing Hua Laozu, had been killed by the Yulon River Demon clan. What kind of exciting scene will unfold in the Jade Swamp? Chu Tiancheng Laozu was afraid that the world would not be in chaos. He said, it's just that this fire doesn't seem to be burning hot enough. We need to add fuel to the fire. This was the first time that Lu Ping had seen the highly respected second-generation disciples of his sect actually use such tactics. He could not help but find it hard to adapt, and for a moment, he could only laugh along. Chu Tiancheng Laozu slapped Lu Ping on the shoulder and said, "Kid, I haven't seen you in a few years. I didn't expect your strength to have grown to such a level. You can go head-to-head with a Dharma adept, and in one move, you seriously injured Qinghua Laozu, who is at the peak of the early Dharma stage, whose strength is on par with ours. If this news gets out, your name will not only be known in the North Sea." Lu Ping was shocked and hurriedly waved his hands. He said, "Uncle Masters, please spare your disciple. I have taken advantage of you 3 Uncle Masters." Chu Tiancheng Laozu nodded and said, "Luckily, you did not get too cocky. This matter ends here. That Qinghua Laozu was killed by a Dharma adept of the Yulon River Demon clan. Even within our sect, this person was killed by the 3 of us. It has nothing to do with you." Lu Ping knew that this was the 3 Laozus' protection for him, so he sincerely bowed to the 3 Laozus and said, "Thank you, Uncle Masters, for protecting me." Unexpectedly, Chu Tiancheng Laozu grabbed Lu Ping again and laughed. "Kid, although we have helped you cover up this matter, you still have to pay a price, right?" Lu Ping already had a bad feeling in his heart. Sure enough, Chu Tiancheng Laozu's words floated in his mind. He said, "After this trip to the Yingyu swamp, find some time to spar with me. Let's see how strong you have become." Lu Ping's face suddenly became bitter. If it was any other Laozu, it would be fine. Maybe Lu Ping would be eager to try, but this Chu Tiancheng Laozu was a famous battle maniac. In order to improve his own strength, he once entered the late core forging stage and continuously challenged 36 late core forging stage adepts of the North Sea. Although there were wins and losses, the name Thunderbolt Fire Chu Tiancheng became famous in the North Sea cultivation world. In fact, this wasn't a big deal. What really gave Lu Ping a headache was that this junior martial uncle was like an idiot who would pester him endlessly. If he won, it would be fine. But if he lost, he would challenge him again and again. It was very annoying. When Chu Tiancheng Laozu's cultivation was successful, he immediately challenged the first person of the 2nd generation disciples, Zhenling's most valued perfected master Jiang Xianlin. Perfected master Jiang Xianlin had always been free and unfettered. He was most annoyed by these battles, but because he was from the same sect, he did not use his full strength. It was only after perfected master Chu Tiancheng used his full strength that he won by a narrow margin. Unexpectedly, this made perfected master Chu Tiancheng very excited. He thought that the gap between him and perfected master Jiang Xianlin was not too big. If he cultivated diligently, he might be the first person of the 2nd generation disciples in the future. Therefore, every once in a while, when perfected master Chu Tiancheng felt that his strength had improved, he would challenge perfected master Jiang Xianlin. Every time, he would lose to perfected master Jiang Xianlin by a single move, but he would continue to fight. No matter how restrained perfected master Jiang Xianlin was, he was annoyed by perfected master Chu Tiancheng's challenge method. In the end, he simply threw away all the friendship between them. When perfected master Chu Tiancheng excitedly ran over to challenge him again, perfected master Jiang Xuanlin's face darkened and he beat perfected master Chu Tiancheng up with a few punches and kicks. It was only then that perfected master Chu Tiancheng realized that perfected master Jiang Xianlin had always been giving in to him. He realized that the gap between him and senior brother Jiang Xianlin was so huge. From then on, perfected master Chu Tiancheng never challenged perfected master Jiang Xianlin again. Instead, he seemed to be beaten up by perfected master Jiang Xianlin. He could be said to be obedient to perfected master Jiang Xianlin and regarded himself as perfected master Jiang Xuanlin's little brother. Lu Ping knew that there was a high chance that he couldn't avoid it this time. Putting aside whether he could win or not, Lu Ping had to go all out first. He couldn't even think about pretending that he was no match for perfected master Chu Tiancheng. After being beaten up by Jiang Tianlin Laozu when they were in the late stage of core forging, Chu Tiancheng Laozu seemed to have a psychological shadow. Although his ability to pester did not decrease at all, and even became more and more intense, he had never been lenient to his opponents who adopted a passive attitude during the battle. Old ancestor Chu Tiancheng was known as the Thunderbolt Fire. His fire attribute magical power was extremely overbearing. It was especially powerful in a head-on battle. Although the cultivators who were challenged by him were originally on par with him, they were defeated in the process of fighting him head-on. Therefore, Lu Ping had no choice but to fight, and he had to go all out in this battle. After the three Laozus discussed for a while, they went their separate ways. Lu Ping followed Guo Tianshan Laozu and left together. When they were about to reach a camp built by the cultivators of the Hebei cultivation world, Guo Tianshan Laozu's expression suddenly changed and a mouthful of dirty blood flowed out of his mouth. Lu Ping hurriedly went forward to support him and said, "Teacher, are you all right?" Old ancestor Guo Tianshan sighed, "Luckily, our foundations weren't damaged. Otherwise, it's very likely that our Yingshan Immortal Academy would have been annihilated during this trip to the lush jade swamp." As the two of them spoke, they stumbled as they flew towards the camp. "Hey, Brother Guo, who would injure you to such an extent?" Like a wave, a figure gradually became clearer in the sky. A Dharma Power Laozu stepped out of the void. Looking at the bloodstain at the corner of his mouth, he frowned and said, "Brother Guo, which sect did you have a conflict with?" Yingshan Immortal Academy has only been established for about 10 years, but it is all because of Brother Guo, a Dharma Power adept. If anything happens to you, my old friend, the effort you put into establishing the sect will go to waste. Now, it is better to be kind to others and keep a low profile. Chapter 740. On the 10th day of the Hebei practitioners entering the lush jade swamp, a worrisome piece of news began to spread through the swamp. The Yingshan Immortal Academy's only Dharma adept, Laozu Guo Tianshan, had been ambushed by an unknown force while out on a solo trip. Guo Tianshan had fought his way out, but he had been seriously injured. After returning to the camp in the swamp, the Dharma adept of the Yintang sect, Yin Hui Laozu, had confirmed that the injuries on Guo Tianshan Laozu's body had come from the Yulon River monster clan's heart breaking and arteries breaking. Fortunately, Guo Tianshan Laozu was a Dharma adept after all, and he had not been hit in a vital area, so the injuries were far from damaging his foundation. However, if he wanted to fully recover, he would need at least a few months of rest. The news of Guo Tianshan Laozu's injuries immediately made the practitioners entering the lush jade swamp cautious. Following that, the various sects received news that the Yulon River monster clan had appeared in the swamp, causing the situation in the lush jade swamp to become more and more delicate. The next day, the Jiyu clan's Dharma adept, Jiyu Chang Laozu, and the Cloud Capital sect's Taidu Laozu jointly issued a warning to the various sects of the Hebei practitioners. The practitioners of the Xian sect from the plains had secretly infiltrated the lush jade swamp. A few days ago, the practitioners of the Xian sect colluded with a suspected practitioner of the Spirit Beast Tamer sect and used wild beasts to attack the disciples of the two sects, causing 2 deaths and 2 serious injuries. When the news spread, the practitioners in the lush jade swamp were in an uproar. The strong intervention of the Xian sect had changed the situation in the swamp, and all kinds of rumors and news were flying everywhere. Why did the Xian sect secretly infiltrate the lush jade swamp? Why did they attack the disciples of the Jiyu clan and the Cloud Capital sect? However, before they could digest the news, several cultivators from the other sects spread the news. On the same day when the cultivators from the Jiyu clan and Cloud Capital faction were ambushed, the cultivators from the other sects were also ambushed by wild beasts in the swamp. Due to that, the cultivators from the other sects suffered casualties. The boiling situation in the rich jade swamp suddenly cooled down. Did the Xian sect really want to become the enemy of all the cultivators in the cultivation world of Hebei? After a day of anxiety, the 2 Dharma manifestation Laozu suddenly appeared in a camp that was overseen by a Hebei cultivation sect's Laozu. One of the cultivators had a pale face and was in a sorry state. It was obvious that he had been through a fierce battle, and his inner yuan was greatly damaged. The situation of the other Fa Xiong, Laozu, caused the cultivators in the camp to turn pale with fright. They saw a huge palm print on Laozu's back. Although these 2 Laozu didn't say much, these wounds, which seemed to have been left behind from close combat, seemed to fit perfectly with the heartbreaker pulse-severing divine ability of the Yulon River monsters. The Dharma manifestation adept who had been stationed at the camp hurriedly went to pay a visit. However, these two Laozu, named Chu Cheng and Liang Feng, did not say much. The next day, Chu Cheng Laozu brought the injured Liang Feng Laozu and flew out of the Rich Jade Swamp. Clearly, they wanted to withdraw from this trip to the Rich Jade Swamp. The Dharma manifestation adept stationed at the camp sent out several spatial jade slips with a heavy heart, communicating with the other Laozus of the various sects in the other camps. Although nothing else happened that day, the cultivators in the Rich Jade Swamp could already sense that a violent counterattack was brewing. The atmosphere in the Rich Jade Swamp was getting more and more strange. The various sects that had come to surround and kill Mara began to recall their disciples and guard the safety of their camps. At the same time, the number of Yulon River monsters in the swamp grew more and more frequent. Some of the cultivators who were still out adventuring, after a series of dangerous battles, brought back news that confirmed what the Jiyu clan and the Cloud Capital sect had said. There were indeed black-robed cultivators attacking and killing the cultivators of the various sects in the Hebei region in the swamp. However, after being warned by the Jiyu clan and the Cloud Capital sect, the various sects were on their guard. Even so, there were still many cultivators who were killed. On the 14th day, an even more shocking piece of news swept through the entire Rich Jade Swamp. The three Laozu masters of the Huayu sect had led 10 late core forging adepts from the sect into the Rich Jade Swamp. After entering the Rich Jade Swamp, they killed 7 core forging adepts of the Yulon River monsters and wounded 1 Dharma adept of the Yulon River monsters. When the news spread, the various sects of the Hebei region, Laozu masters of the various sects were caught off guard. Although there had been many clashes between the humans and the monsters in the swamp, on the whole, both sides had maintained some restraint. Even though Guo Tianshan and 2 other Dharma adepts had been wounded by the monsters, the high-level practitioners of the Yulon River monsters and the high-level practitioners of the spiritual martial sect of the Hebei region, as well as the other 5 large and medium-sized sects, had been communicating with each other. Although the 2 sides were at daggers drawn, they did not accidentally fire. The Huayu sect had recklessly charged into the Rich Jade Swamp and started a massacre. Not only did the various sects of the Hebei region not expect this, but the monsters of the Yulon River were also caught off guard. Of course, the Huayu sect was not an idiot. In front of the entire Yulon River monsters, the Huayu sect was nothing more than an ant. Naturally, they would not use an egg to touch a rock. When the Huayu sect had attacked the monsters in the swamp, the spiritual martial sect had already received the news that one of the 4 great Dharma adepts of the Huayu sect, Qinghua Laozu, who had the highest chance of reaching the mid-Dharma stage in the last few hundred years, had fallen in the Rich Jade Swamp. By the time the Huayu sect had found Qinghua Laozu's body, it had already been badly mutilated. However, they could still prove that Qinghua Laozu had died under the heart-breaking arteries of the Yulon River monsters. What was even more frightening was that before Qinghua Laozu had fallen, he had been severely wounded by a special sword technique, and this sword technique was the single true essence sword technique. The spearhead was pointed directly at the king of the Yulon River monsters, one of the top monsters in the world of training, the Koi monsters. The Koi monsters had 2 great inherited sword techniques. One was the Heaven's Gate sword formation, and the other was the single true essence sword technique, which had always been a secret technique of the Koi monsters. Now that the single true essence sword technique had appeared, and had become the main reason why Qinghua Laozu of the Huayu sect had fallen, the Koi monsters could not escape the blame. The fall of a Dharma adept, and the appearance of the Koi monsters. If they continued to restrain themselves, it would definitely chill the hearts of the majority of the Hebei training world. On the 15th day, the spiritual martial sect and the Yuhua sect, the 2 large sects, as well as the Huayu sect and the other 3 small sects, had a total of 6 Laozus. They had destroyed one of the camps that the Yulon River monsters had set up in the swamp. Of the 2 Dharma adepts guarding the camp, one was dead, and the other was injured. When the news spread, the morale of the Hebei training world was greatly boosted. They all applauded the powerful methods of the spiritual martial sect. At the same time, many cultivators spontaneously formed groups and began to kill the monsters in the swamp. The conflict between the 2 sides became more and more intense. Within the main camp, because Patriarch Guotianshan was heavily injured, he didn't participate in the upcoming series of operations against the monsters of the Yulon River. Only when the various patriarchs of the various sects gathered together to discuss matters would Patriarch Guotianshan drag his injured body to participate. Because Lu Ping was the only late core forging disciple from the Yingshan Immortal Academy to participate in this operation, since his teacher was injured, Lu Ping had to take care of his teacher. Naturally, he did not leave the camp to participate in the operations of the other sects. The other sects did not say much either. Half a month passed, and the situation in the lush jade swamp worsened, even developing in a confusing direction. First, the spiritual martial sect received news from the spirit beast sect. This time, there might be cultivators from the spirit beast sect in the lush jade swamp, but the spirit beast sect had never joined forces with the supreme profound sect to ambush disciples of other sects. Soon after, the supreme profound sect's cultivators no longer hid their identities and openly stood on the side of the spiritual martial sect. The Hebei training world also gradually began to divide. Aside from the spiritual martial sect's staunch allies, the Yuhua sect, the Huayu sect, and the other 3 small sects, the other 13 small sects, including the Yingshan Immortal Academy, gradually distanced themselves from the spiritual martial sect. The other 13 sects did not expect that the supreme profound sect would openly stand on the side of the spiritual martial sect. After a meeting of the various sects, Guotianshan and Laozu, Guotianshan told Lu Ping that the 13 sects had privately reached a consensus to join forces with the Yulon River Demon Clan to deal with the spiritual martial sect. When Lu Ping first heard this news, he was speechless. This was a typical method of inviting a wolf into the house. However, Lu Ping thought about it again. The Hebei training world did not wish for the spiritual martial sect to rise to become a large power and obtain the recognition of the 5 great holy lands. The Yulon River also did not wish for a powerful spiritual martial sect to appear in the Hebei training world. Both sides could be considered to have hit it off. It was just that the various sects seemed to have forgotten the purpose of entering the lush jade swamp. Although the various sects' cultivators had already attacked the depths of the lush jade swamp, Mara's lair had still not been found. Naturally, there was no trace of the legendary large spirit vein either. However, Lu Ping immediately noticed that after the spiritual martial sect, the Yuhua clan, and the Huayu clan had joined forces to counterattack, destroying a camp of the Yulon River Demon Clan and killing a Dharma adept of the Demon Clan, Laozu from both sides seemed to have a tacit understanding and did not attack again. Although the various powers in the lush jade swamp were fighting each other, the parties involved were only core forging stage cultivators. The various sects Laozu and a portion of the elite core forging stage disciples were still searching the depths of the swamp for the Shura and the demonic cultivator's lair. Right now, the situation in the swamp is very bad. Are you sure you want to go meet the spirit beast sect cultivator? Guotianshan Laozu asked Lu Ping. Your strength is naturally not a problem, but right now, the swamp is in chaos. If you get surrounded, it will be very bad. Lu Ping smiled. Don't worry, Uncle Master. I just don't know how Uncle Master Liang and Uncle Master Chu are doing. Guotianshan Laozu was silent for a moment, then said, there shouldn't be a problem. Right now, although the situation in the swamp is somewhat unexpected, we have no intention of getting involved. The various sects' cultivators will definitely not suspect us. Chapter 741. In just half a day, Lu Ping had found his way to the swamp map left behind by Sang Yu. Lu Ping's body turned into a fine mist and his divine sense swept across a radius of several dozen kilometers. He seemed to have discovered something and flew in that direction. After flying for a distance of 7 or 8 kilometers, Lu Ping's figure emerged from the fine mist. A 5-colored light flashed around him and a divine sense immediately swept over a kilometer in front of him. A long laugh was heard. It's neither too early nor too late. Brother Lu is indeed a man of his word. Sang Yu was startled to discover that a person had suddenly appeared in the range of his divine sense from a kilometer away. When his divine sense swept over the area, he discovered that it was actually Lu Ping, whom he had been waiting for all this time. Although he breathed a sigh of relief on the surface, his fear of Lu Ping's strength grew even stronger. The cultivators of the spirit-taming sect who roamed the world were all outstanding elites in the cultivation world. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been granted the right to travel down the mountain. As an outstanding late core forging cultivator of the spirit-taming sect, Sage Sang Yu was quite confident in his own strength. However, Lu Ping had only been discovered when he was within a kilometer of him. Lu Ping's strength was no weaker than the direct disciples from the Holy Lands that Sage Sang Yu had met in the past, so he had no choice but to treat Lu Ping seriously. If Lu Ping were to make a request to Sage Sang Yu to exchange for the spirit clearing pill, Sage Sang Yu would definitely give Lu Ping face. With Lu Ping's talent, he would definitely have a place in the cultivation world as long as he didn't die midway. Forming a good relationship with such an outstanding person would definitely bring him many benefits in the future. Although the spirit-taming sect had always been mysterious and unfathomable in the cultivation world, it didn't mean that this sect was above the common populace. Lu Ping calmly took 2 steps towards Sage Sang Yu and cupped his hands in greeting. The situation in the swamp has changed greatly recently, so I have no choice but to be cautious. Fortunately, I didn't miss any time. May I know what Sage Sang Yu wants me to do this time? Sang Yu smiled and said, "There's no hurry. Please wait for a moment and I'll be sure to inform Brother Lu." Lu Ping was taken aback. "What's wrong? Brother Sang is meeting someone else?" Sang Yu smiled embarrassedly. "Please don't blame me, Brother Lu. Last time, I was interrupted by someone. Not only did I fail to complete my task, but my cultivation was also almost destroyed. If it weren't for Brother Lu's amazing alchemy skills, I'm afraid my lifespan would have been exhausted and I would have died long ago. This time, although I have Brother Lu's strong support, the person who attacked me that day seems to have a great status. Therefore, I asked a sworn sister to bring her subordinates to help me." "Oh." Lu Ping nodded thoughtfully and said, "It seems that Brother Sang has encountered a very troublesome matter. Otherwise, with Brother Sang's skills and my assistance, even ordinary Dharma adepts would be able to put up a fight." Sang Yu smiled bitterly and nodded, obviously agreeing with what Lu Ping had said. At the same time, he also admitted that the last time he had been injured, it seemed that he had been ambushed by a Dharma adept. If this had happened before, perhaps Lu Ping would have complimented wise Sang Yu for being able to escape with his life from a Dharma adept's ambush. But now, Lu Ping's expression was extremely calm, as if his opponent's performance had not changed at all. After the battle with Qinghua Laozu, the unattainable status of Dharma adepts in Lu Ping's heart had been completely destroyed. The heart of a strong adept had been completely formed. After seeing Lu Ping's expression, wise Sang Yu nodded to himself. He knew that the person before him was indeed the person he had been looking for. In the world of practice, there was no lack of amazing people, but in the end, they were often lost. One of the most important reasons was that they did not have the heart of a strong adept. They did not have the courage and confidence to break the existing rules. At this moment, Lu Ping's divine will had already detected people flying towards them from more than 10 miles away. After a while, wise Sang Yu's expression changed, and he smiled. "They are here." When Lu Ping raised his head to look, he saw 9 streaks of light flying in the direction of the 2 of them. Lu Ping's eyes flashed, but a strange expression appeared on his face. At this time, wise Sang Yu had already rushed forward excitedly and did not notice the strange expression on Lu Ping's face. As the light descended, a total of 9 cultivators, 3 women and 6 men, appeared. Daoist Master Sang Yu laughed and said, "Sworn sister, you're finally here. Come, let me introduce you to a fellow Daoist. It's you." As soon as wise Sang Yu finished speaking, the leading woman and the cultivators behind her shouted in unison towards Lu Ping. Under wise Sang Yu's surprised gaze, a burly man beside the leading woman was about to rush forward, but he was stopped by a tall and thin man. Wise Sang Yu looked back at the embarrassed Lu Ping and asked hesitantly, "What? Do you know each other?" The woman looked at Lu Ping and said through gritted teeth, "Of course I do. How can I not? The poison on 7th sister and 9th sister was caused by this person." These 9 people were none other than the Cyan Fox 9 bandits who had tried to snatch the spirit vein that Lu Ping had discovered. They were later defeated by Lu Ping and used the green sea snake to ambush 2 of them. As soon as the 2 sides met, it could be said that when enemies met, their eyes blazed with hatred. At the very least, the eyes of the Cyan Fox 9 bandits were exceptionally bloodshot. If Cyan Wolf was still rational, he would have grabbed the impulsive Cyan Tiger, and the 2 sides might have already engaged in a fierce battle. The surprise on Wise Sang Yu's face became even more intense. He turned back to look at Lu Ping and asked, "Brother Lu, are you really Elder Xian Ping from the Ying Shan Immortal Academy that has recently risen in Hebei's cultivation world?" Lu Ping listened to Wise Sang Yu's question and felt a chill in his heart. From Qing Hu's words, it was clear that Wise Sang Yu had seen the poison on 7th sister and 9th sister of the Cyan Fox 9 bandits. The poison caused by Lu Bai and Lu Ling might be unfamiliar to the ordinary cultivators of the Central Plains, but to the spirit beast taming sect that was proficient in researching the world's spirit beasts, how could the famous green sea snake's poison escape his eyes? However, because Samling had been tempered in the myriad poison serum, the poison of Samling had mutated, making it even more tyrannical and difficult to deal with than ordinary green sea snake's poison. That was why this outstanding cultivator of the spirit beast taming sect didn't dare to make such a claim. Although Lu Ping sighed inwardly at his own carelessness, he didn't show it on his face. He calmly smiled and said, "I am indeed Lu Xianping from the Ying Shan Immortal Academy. I am currently an elder of the Immortal Academy. The Immortal Academy has just been established and has a weak foundation. It can't compare to the spirit beast taming sect that Brother Sang is from. Even with my meager abilities, I am ashamed to be able to hold the title of elder." Reverend Sang Yu laughed heartily. He pointed at Lu Ping and said, "Brother Lu, I'm afraid you still don't know about your fame. You defeated the 3 heroes of the Jiyu clan by yourself, killed several late core forging vicious beasts and asuras with a single sword strike, rescued 4 cultivators from the Jiyu clan and the Cloud Capital sect, and then, together with these 4 people, exposed the Supreme Profound sect's plot to infiltrate the swamp and ambush the cultivators of the various sects in Hebei. In a one-on-one battle, you defeated the Supreme Profound sect's 9th layer core forging expert who wielded the Profound Gold Fan, forcing the opponent to use an escape talisman weapon in the end to escape with his life. Now, Brother Lu, your fame has already surpassed the cultivation world of Hebei. Even the cultivation world of the plains and the Yulon River's demon clan have heard of you." This news made Lu Ping feel extremely uncomfortable. He didn't think that his scheme would expose him to the cultivation world of Hebei. However, he couldn't blame anyone for this. He could only blame Lu Ping's own lack of consideration. Lu Ping smiled modestly and said, "Brother Sang, you flatter me. I just happened to be at the right time." Sang Yu waved his hand and said, "Brother Lu, a straightforward person doesn't resort to insinuations. My sworn sister may be a little overbearing normally, but she's an extraordinary woman with a deep sense of brotherhood. For my sake, Brother Lu, how about you cure the snake venom in her 7th and 9th sisters? After all, this snake venom is of great importance. I believe that Brother Lu doesn't want too many people to know about it, especially those who recognize this snake venom." Sang Yu saw that Lu Ping's expression was calm, but a trace of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. He took out a green jade bottle from his bosom and said, "This is a spirit bottle specially made by my sect to hold the spirit clearing pills. I am willing to give you all 6 spirit clearing pills in my possession to thank you." Although Sang Yu's words sounded like a kind request, there was a hint of threat in his words. Clearly, if Lu Ping cured the snake venom, once the poison in his 7th and 9th sisters' bodies spread, there would definitely be people who recognized the green sea snake. The Ying Shan Immortal Academy was just established, but its disciples had a top-grade demonic beast like the green sea snake as a spiritual pet. If this news were to spread, the Ying Shan Immortal Academy would definitely arouse suspicion. This situation was clearly not what Lu Ping wanted to see. Lu Ping was naturally able to hear the hidden meaning behind Sage Sang Yu's words. Immediately, he felt a burst of anger. When had Lu Ping ever suffered such a threat? Waves of killing intent were about to burst forth. However, when he heard that Sage Sang Yu was willing to give 6 spirit clearing pills in exchange for Lu Ping's antidote, Lu Ping's heart was moved. To spiritual pets, the spirit clearing pill was like a core forging realm cultivator who was preparing to refine a spiritual item and encountered a spirit forging pill. Previously, Lu Ping had obtained a spirit clearing pill from Tian Shui Laozu and given it to the Amethyst Wasp King. Now, Lu Ping wanted to give a few more to the other spiritual pets. Unfortunately, Sage Sang Yu had only given Lu Ping 3 spirit clearing pills. Now that it had increased to 6, Lu Ping almost agreed. Looking at the green fox who was filled with anticipation, Lu Ping muttered to himself for a moment. Suddenly, he smiled and said, "Brother Sang must be joking. When did I say that I wasn't willing to cure those 2 female Taoists? Didn't I say that after the matter at the Abundant Jade Swamp is over, the 9 of you only need to make a trip to the Ying Shan Immortal Academy and the snake venom will be cured?" Sage Sang Yu was startled. He looked at the green fox beside him suspiciously. Seeing the green fox nodding in acknowledgement, he said, "Brother Lu, don't tell me that you want my sworn sisters to do something. If you have any conditions, why don't you state them now?" Lu Ping shook his head and said, "Other than that spirit vein, I did indeed have a few other conditions that I wanted. However, I haven't thought of them yet. Once I've thought them through, I'll naturally inform everyone. For now, let's settle Brother Sang's matter first." Sage Sang Yu looked at the green fox and said helplessly, "That's fine. I believe that Brother Lu is not someone who goes back on his words. However, this time, the thing we will be facing is not simple. It is a primordial fierce crocodile." Chapter 742. Primordial Crocodile? Lu Ping was taken aback. What does this thing have to do with the primordial crocodile, a top-tier demon from overseas? Immortal Sang Yu gave Lu Ping a meaningful look and said, "Although top-tier demons are born with intelligence like humans, if their intelligence is erased from a young age, they can only become ferocious beast." Lu Ping sucked in a breath of cold air. Who would be so bold as to erase the intelligence of a descendant of the primordial crocodile clan and raise it in this area? Since the primordial crocodile was a top-tier demon whose intelligence had been erased, it could only be the primordial crocodile, the clan that dominated the North Sea Demon Clan. Reverend Sang Yu pointed out and said, although top-grade demon clans do not have a large population due to the relatively difficult reproduction of their bloodlines, they value their descendants greatly. But it's not that no one in the world of cultivation dares to attack top-grade demon clans. There are many cases of almighty cultivators imprisoning them as spirit pets or mounts. However, the primordial fierce crocodiles in this lush jade swamp seem to have been raised by a primordial giant crocodile demon cultivator. Lu Ping suddenly said, "Brother Sang failed to capture the primordial crocodile because of this primordial crocodile demon cultivator?" Immortal Sang Yu nodded and replied, "Yes. Although I lost to that person last time, I used my spirit beast taming sect's secret technique to drive the crocodile to the depths of a quagmire in the swamp. It will only appear again on a full moon night." Beside him, Ching, whose eyes suddenly lit up. "Big brother, are you preparing to break through to the Dharma stage?" Lu Ping was startled when he heard this, but he remembered a rumor about the spirit beast taming sect cultivators. Sure enough, Sang Yu smiled and said, "Yes." Lu Ping was slightly surprised. "So it's a Dharma stage crocodile." Sang Yu smiled apologetically at Lu Ping and said, "Because this is very important to me, I hope Brother Lu won't blame me for not telling you in advance. However, if we work together, it won't be difficult to capture a Dharma stage beast with no intelligence. The only thing we have to worry about is the primordial crocodile demon cultivator." The cultivation method of the spirit-taming beast sect was slightly different from that of ordinary cultivators. Apart from having to follow the same cultivation steps as ordinary cultivators, they had to go through a strict test every time they entered a new cultivation stage. If a 9th layer blood refining realm spirit taming sect cultivator wanted to advance to the blood condensation realm, other than cultivation techniques and blood condensing pills, the most important thing was to capture a blood condensation realm demonic beast with his own hands. Similarly, a blood condensation realm cultivator needed a core forging realm demonic beast to advance to the core forging realm. Now that Reverend Sang Yu wanted to advance to the transcendence realm, he needed an transcendence realm demonic beast. This was actually an important reason why the cultivators of the spirit-taming beast sect roamed the world and were mysterious, yet powerful. The primordial crocodile that enlightened Master Sang Yu had chosen was a primordial crocodile that had lost its intelligence. It originally had the bloodline of a top-level beast and was one of the best among beasts of the same level. It was no wonder that enlightened Master Sang Yu had taken a liking to this beast. The only thing he had to worry about was Dharma Laozu, who had once attacked enlightened Master Sang Yu. According to enlightened Master Sang Yu, Dharma Laozu seemed to be a primordial crocodile demon cultivator. This surprised Lu Ping greatly. The primordial crocodile was the king of the North Sea demon clans. Could it be that the North Sea demon clans had secretly infiltrated the Central Plains? Lu Ping pondered for a moment before saying, "Brother Sang, from what you said, that Dharma realm demon cultivator will definitely come to disturb you when you subdue the primordial crocodile?" Enlightened Master Sang Yu seemed a little worried. "I'm afraid so. There seem to be a few other crocodiles in the lush jade swamp, but this is the only one that has reached the Dharma realm. Therefore, I'm afraid he won't give up. Otherwise, he might have to wait more than 100 years for the other one to mature." Lu Ping knew what enlightened Master Sang Yu was worried about. He smiled and said, "Since Brother Sang had the confidence to subdue the primordial crocodile last time, with the help of Qing Hu and Qing Hu, there won't be a problem." Enlightened Master Sang Yu's expression changed. "Why, Brother Lu is not willing to help me?" Qing Hu, who was standing to the side, looked like a lion. She snorted mockingly and said, "You go back on your word. I'm ashamed to be associated with you." Lu Ping did not mind. He continued to say to Sang Yu, "Brother Sang, I will not do such a thing. Moreover, I have coveted Brother Sang's spirit clearing pill for a long time. How can I give it up so easily?" Enlightened Master Sang Yu did not understand. He asked, "Then why, Brother Lu?" Lu Ping said, "The Dharma stage demon is in the dark, while we are in the light. What I mean is for Brother Sang and Qing Hu to lure the beast out and subdue it first. I will hide at the side and wait for the Dharma stage demon to make a move. Then, I will give him the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind." Without waiting for enlightened Master Sang Yu to speak, Qing Lang, who was standing beside Qing Hu, laughed coldly and said, "Easy for you to say. If it is as you say, Brother Sang Yu only needs to hide at the side and wait for the Dharma stage demon to make a move." Wouldn't it be better for Brother Sang Yu to come out and reap the fruits of his labor? Dharma adepts are above us both in terms of divine will and level of practice. How can our concealment techniques escape the detection of a Dharma adept? Although what Qing Lang said made sense, enlightened Master Sang Yu thought about how Lu Ping had suddenly appeared in his divine will. It was obvious that Lu Ping had not used his full strength at that time. If that was the case, Lu Ping should have appeared slowly in his divine will. This meant that Lu Ping must have a concealment technique that was no weaker than that of a Dharma adept. "Brother Lu," enlightened Sang Yu hadn't finished speaking when Lu Ping interrupted him. "Don't worry, Brother Sang. I'm quite experienced in concealing my tracks. It's extremely difficult for that monster cultivator to discover me. Moreover, even if he discovers me, it's naturally for the best if he doesn't dare to make a move for fear of injuring me." Sang Yu nodded gratefully and said, "Thank you, Brother Lu." In the depths of the lush jade swamp, above a huge quagmire, enlightened Master Sang Yu and the Green Fox 9 bandits hovered in the air. Qing Hu muttered to himself, "I wonder if that person is just bluffing. Is his ability really comparable to a Dharma adept?" You have to know that this is a demon from the primordial crocodile, a top-tier demon. His ability is much stronger than a cultivator of the same level. Sang Yu and Qing Hu ignored him. Both of them focused their divine will on the quagmire beneath their feet. Qing Lang, who was beside them, tugged at Qing Hu, indicating that he should stop talking. On the night of the full moon, when the full moon rose to the center of the sky, the quagmire beneath everyone's feet started to move. A huge mud whirlpool slowly formed in the middle of the quagmire, and the radius of the whirlpool grew larger and larger. "It's coming out," Enlightened Master Sang Yu said in a low voice to the Green Fox 9 bandits beside him. The Green Fox 9 bandits set up a formation around Enlightened Master Sang Yu, prepared to help him suppress the primordial crocodile that was about to emerge from the quagmire. The mud whirlpool beneath their feet started to churn violently. Suddenly, a huge crocodile's mouth broke through the mud, and a pair of lantern-like eyes suddenly opened. A fierce crocodile with a head the size of 1 meter appeared on the surface of the quagmire. It faced the bright moon in the sky and slowly opened its huge mouth, letting out a low growl. What a huge beast! The Green Fox 9 bandits were all secretly shocked. It was not only because of the beast's huge size, but also because of the fierce aura that this beast released the moment it broke through the mud. The crocodile's huge body gradually emerged from the mud. Although this crocodile was only 7 feet long and 10 feet tall, it was not considered huge among the ferocious beasts in the swamp, but its Dharma stage cultivation was unquestionable. Seeing that the fierce crocodile had already left the quagmire, Enlightened Master Sang Yu's expression became solemn. He said, "Now is the time. Brothers and sisters, there is no need to hold back. Just leave it alive." With a clear shout, the Green Fox 9 bandits took out her spirit cultivation level magic treasure, a giant axe. Gathering the power of the formation, she used all her strength to smash the head of the fierce crocodile. Daoist Sang Yu opened a spirit beast pouch in his hand and 3 mid-core forging hounds jumped out. Then, under the command of Daoist Sang Yu's spiritual sense, they charged towards the crocodile from different directions. The fierce crocodile's natural bloodline pressure caused the 3 fierce dogs to be somewhat afraid. However, under Enlightened Master Sang Yu's urging, they overcame the suppression of their bloodline and rushed towards the fierce crocodile. This was not the end of it. Enlightened Master Sang Yu immediately released 2 mid-core forging giant eagles. They swooped down from the sky and pecked at the fierce crocodile's eyes. Then, Enlightened Master Sang Yu opened another spirit beast pouch. A roar came from inside, and a 10-meter-tall giant bear descended from the sky. Its huge bear paw smashed towards the crocodile's head. At this time, it was a late-core forging explosive bear. Unfortunately, it was a fierce beast without intelligence. Enlightened Master Sang Yu's methods were not limited to this. He suddenly took out a small bell the size of a palm. The bell flew to the top of the fierce crocodile's head, and a series of light chimes rang out. A strange fluctuation came from the bell, and apart from the Green Fox 9 bandits, the other 8 members of the Green Fox 9 bandits felt dizzy. Then, they saw Enlightened Master Sang Yu form an incantation gesture, and the strange fluctuation moved towards the fierce crocodile. The 8 people's eyes became clear, and when they looked at the bell again, their eyes were filled with astonishment. The fierce crocodile swung its tail, and 2 of the 3 fierce dogs were sent flying. The other dog jumped up, but it was only able to bite one of the crocodile's forelimbs. At this time, the crisp sound of the bell resounded from the top of the crocodile's head. The crocodile's eyes turned cloudy, and it almost fell asleep. However, the fierce crocodile only paused for a moment before it woke up. It raised its huge mouth, and collided with the giant axe. The axe flew back, and the fierce crocodile's head sank down. A cry of pain came from the crocodile's mouth. There was a huge gash on the top of its head, and dark red blood flowed from the wound. Coincidentally, the pain from the axe caused the crocodile to close its eyes. At the same time, it twisted its body to avoid the 2 giant eagles that swooped down from the sky. A pair of eagle claws clawed at the crocodile's back, and only 1 or 2 scales were lifted. Then, The exploding bear slapped the crocodile's head with its paws, and the crocodile's head was once again smashed down. The exploding bear was also hit by the crocodile, and its body was covered in mud, turning into a muddy bear. After putting on the stone armor again, Lu Ping wrapped the cloudy five elements robe around himself and hid in the nearby fog. He used his divine will to carefully observe the movements around him, and at the same time, he observed the battle on the shore of the quagmire. This was the first time Lu Ping had seen the spirit beast tamer sect's way of fighting. Under the command of Sage Sang Yu, 6 fierce beasts at the mid and late core forging stage surrounded a Dharma stage fierce beast. Compared to the intelligent demon and human cultivators, fierce beasts could only turn their cultivation into brute force and fight like wild beasts. They did not know how to cultivate any spells or abilities. Of course, some of the more gifted fierce beasts still had some abilities that they could use in battle. In Lu Ping's opinion, this primordial fierce crocodile, which had the bloodline of a top-tier beast, most likely had such a bloodline. This was also why Sage Sang Yu dared to use 6 late core forging stage fierce beasts to surround and attack a Dharma stage fierce beast. With the help of the Green Fox 9 bandits, Sage Sang Yu had the upper hand from the beginning. However, Lu Ping could also see clearly that the strength that Sage Sang Yu had displayed was far from his full strength. Under the situation where there was someone to command the 6 late core forging stage fierce beasts, with their fearless nature, they could indeed fight against a late core forging stage adept. Furthermore, the commander himself was a late core forging stage adept, so it would not be a problem for him to defeat most late core forging stage adepts. However, if Sage Sang Yu only had this much strength, Lu Ping would never believe that he would be able to escape from a sneak attack by an early Dharma adept with the bloodline of the primordial fierce crocodile. Lu Ping's expression changed. His divine will could faintly sense that there was an abnormal fluctuation in the surrounding fog, but it only lasted for a moment before it disappeared. "Is it already here?" An expectant smile appeared on Lu Ping's face. His divine will immediately turned into threads of water that flowed slowly in the fog, as if it was filtering all the dust in the fog. "It's here." Lu Ping's divine will could clearly determine the position of the intruder from the fluctuations in the surrounding fog. However, Lu Ping did not dare to use his divine will to lock onto the intruder. Lu Ping himself knew very well how strong a Dharma adept's divine will was. Although with the protection of the 5 elements cloudy robe and the stone armor, Lu Ping was confident that the intruder would not be able to discover his presence. However, if Lu Ping used his divine will to lock onto the intruder, then he would immediately be discovered. Hence, Lu Ping could only use his divine will to wander around the surrounding fog, hoping that he could use the slight fluctuations in the fog to determine the intruder's next move. The physical strength of this Dharma adept beast far exceeded everyone's expectations. Not only that, although these beasts did not know how to use any spells, their inner yuan not only transformed into brute force, but also filled their flesh and blood, greatly increasing the strength of the beast's physical body during the battle. Green Fox's giant axe had already struck out 5 times in a row. Other than 2 of the axe strikes which the beast dodged, the rest all landed on the huge body of the beast. Although they did not cause any serious injuries, the beast's skin and flesh were split open, and it screamed in pain. Compared to these superficial wounds, the true threat came from Daoist Master Sang Yu. Perhaps it was because the vicious beast's resistance far exceeded Daoist Master Sang Yu's expectations. Daoist Master Sang Yu took out a purple spirit pet pouch from his waist, and a 9th layer core forging elephant appeared in the swamp. It swung its long trunk and swayed its huge tusks as it charged towards the vicious crocodile. When wise Master Sang Yu was still a blood condensation cultivator, he had captured a fierce beast that possessed a portion of the bloodline of a top-tier demon clan, the Herculean Divine Elephant clan, in order to advance to the core forging stage. Although this fierce beast was not completely from the Herculean Divine Elephant clan, just this portion of its bloodline made it much stronger than other high-tier demon clan beasts of the same level. Wise Master Sang Yu had relied on this fierce beast to establish his position in the spirit beast sect. This fierce beast had also grown along with Wise Master Sang Yu's cultivation all the way to the 9th level core forging stage. When Wise Master Sang Yu's cultivation was still at the core forging stage, this fierce beast was like a treasure to other cultivators. But now, wise Master Sang Yu's standards had clearly increased. On the eve of advancing to the Dharma Adept stage, he had set his sights on a top-tier vicious beast that possessed the complete bloodline of the primordial giant crocodile. The moment the giant elephant appeared, with the cooperation of the ferocious beasts under Reverend Sang Yu's command and the assistance of the Green Fox 9 bandits, the crocodile was quickly suppressed by Reverend Sang Yu. Very soon, the crocodile's tail was wrapped around the giant elephant's trunk and dragged backwards. The giant axe chopped down, and the crocodile's head suffered another heavy blow. The exploding bear leapt forward and tightly grabbed the crocodile's mouth, but one of the crocodile's front legs was bitten off by the 3 vicious dogs. The crocodile still wanted to struggle, but a series of bells rang out. The crocodile fell into a daze again, and it looked like it was about to be captured. Right at that moment, a burst of laughter rang out. A golden-robed cultivator with a hideous appearance suddenly emerged from the thick fog. A golden beam of light shot out from his hand toward Reverend Sang Yu's head at lightning speed. The Spirit Beast sect's minor repairs almost ruined the old man's plans the last time. This time, it has saved the old man a lot of effort. This giant crocodile belongs to the old man. If you all still want to live, then hurry up and leave. Otherwise, don't blame the old man for not selling the Spirit Beast sect signboard. The divine aura of a Dharma adept filled the heavens and the earth. Aside from Green Fox, the other 8 of the Azure Fox 9 bandits all groaned under the pressure of this newcomer's divine will, and their faces turned pale. Wise Master Sang Yu had expected this person to appear again, but he did not expect that the moment this demon cultivator Lao Zu appeared, he did not attack Wise Master Sang Yu himself, nor did he attack any of the Azure Fox 9 bandits. Instead, he went straight for the giant elephant. He had been too careless. By the time Wise Master Sang Yu reacted, it was already too late to stop the golden light. The giant elephant was entangled with the primordial fierce crocodile, and even if Wise Master Sang Yu commanded the giant elephant to save itself, it would be impossible. The giant elephant was 1/3 of Wise Master Sang Yu's power. Once it was killed, Wise Master Sang Yu's power would be greatly reduced. This time, even if this person did not snatch the primordial fierce crocodile away, the giant elephant would not be able to keep it. Wise Master Sang Yu did not believe that Lu Ping would be able to block this demon cultivator Lao Zu's unexpected attack. Chapter 743. Golden Jiao Lao Zu. Although Lu Ping had already discovered the person hiding nearby, he could not tell who it was. After all, the other party was a Dharma adept, and Lu Ping should be proud that he had not been discovered by the other party. He did not dare to confirm the other party's identity. However, just as the other party was about to attack, Lu Ping suddenly realized that this person was none other than the North Sea Primordial Crocodile clan. That year, Lu Ping had killed Lu Ping's son and daughter, and the entire North Sea training world had put out a bounty for Ao Chuang. Why was he here? But there was no time for Lu Ping to think. Golden Jiao Island Master Ao Chuang's target wasn't Sang Yu, nor any of the Green Fox 9 bandits. Instead, it was the mammoth ferocious beast with the Herculean divine elephant's bloodline. Lu Ping's dual blade art was born from his mind. With a single thought, the dual blade art struck down the golden light. It was a golden coin dart made from the scales of the primordial crocodile. Lu Ping's attack could have been a sneak attack on Ao Chuang, the owner of Golden Jiao Island. However, even if he could divert most of Ao Chuang's attention, the giant elephant would be severely injured even if it did not die under the sneak attack of a hidden weapon like the golden dart. Lu Ping had actually done Zhenren Sang Yu a favor by cutting off the golden dart. Zhenren Sang Yu was well aware of this. Although this giant elephant only had part of the Herculean divine elephant's bloodline, the Herculean divine elephant clan was even rarer than the Kuan. It was also a top-tier bloodline among the demons. Furthermore, this giant elephant was Zhenren Sang Yu's spiritual pet when he was at the core forging stage. In the future, It would also advance to the Dharma stage. If this giant elephant died, even if Zhenren Sangyu managed to subdue the primordial crocodile, his power would be greatly reduced when he advanced to the Dharma stage in the future. Who is it? Ao Chuang's face darkened as he looked in the direction where the flying sword had appeared. Since it was able to evade the detection of his divine will, Ao Chuang instinctively thought that there was a Dharma adept hiding nearby. Ao Chuang was extremely confident in his own strength. He was born of a top-grade demon race, and even though the cultivation world was rather barren in the North Sea, he was confident that there were only a handful of cultivators at the same level as him, be it humans or demons, who could defeat him. However, this situation had been reversed in recent years in the North Sea. Back then, the human and demon races of the North Sea only had 3 geniuses, and Zhongshui was also included. Among the 4, Ao Chuang of the Golden Wm Island was the most outstanding. However, this situation gradually changed after he entered the Dharma stage. Initially, Ao Chuang thought that he was the first second-generation disciple to enter the Dharma stage among the human and demon races of the North Sea. Thus, he held a 600th birthday banquet on the Golden Wm Island, intending to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Unexpectedly, someone came to destroy the banquet. Ao Chuang was originally secretly delighted, thinking that this was the moment for him to establish his dominance in the North Sea. However, he did not expect Jiang Tianlin to appear out of nowhere. Not only did he enter the Dharma stage before Ao Chuang, but he also defeated him in an extremely simple way. Ao Chuang's meticulous planning ended up benefiting someone else in the end, making Jiang Tianlin famous. Fortunately, Ao Chuang and Laozu immediately defeated Feng Shutao, who had entered the Dharma stage, and soon regained much of his confidence. However, just as Ao Chuang cultivated diligently for several years, preparing to find Jiang Tianlin to avenge himself, news came from the human race of the North Sea. The 10 major sects of the North Sea were exploring an ancient relic, and Feng Shutao, Jiang Tianlin, and Zhongshui had actually obtained the inheritance of a Dharma soul. This news was like a blow to Ao Chuang's confidence. The primordial crocodile clan was similar to the Green Sea Snake clan in that they all inherited the bloodline of the ancient Jiao Daoren. Naturally, they knew what a Dharma soul meant to a cultivator. After obtaining the Dharma soul, Feng Shutao took a shortcut and entered the mid-Dharma stage. Zhongshui was originally at the peak of the core forging stage, and this time, he also entered the Dharma stage. Like Jiang Tianlin, Zhongshui chose to slowly refine and absorb the Dharma soul to strengthen his foundation. Although his cultivation speed was not as fast as Feng Shutao's, he would be able to go further in the world of cultivation in the future. Furthermore, Zhongshui was originally a very talented person, and he had been suppressing his own cultivation to not enter the Dharma stage. Naturally, he had a big plan. After successfully entering the Dharma stage, he fought with Laozu and Ao Chuang to a draw. If not for the fact that Ao Chuang had not been idle all these years and had been in the Dharma stage for a long time, he would have had the upper hand. However, this also made Laozu feel a sense of urgency. Zhongshui also had the Dharma soul. Although his cultivation speed was not as fast as that of Feng Shutao, who was a wasteful person, it was definitely much faster than ordinary Dharma adepts. If Ao Chuang still did not make any moves, next time, he would be trampled under the feet of this person who he had looked down on. However, Ao Chuang was, after all, an outstanding figure among the second-generation disciples of the North Sea cultivation world. When he had obtained the title of Lord of the Golden Dragon Island, he had set the stage for himself to enter the Dharma stage in the future. And this foreshadowing was the 5 primordial crocodiles that had been defeated by Ao Chuang and the others in the process of fighting for the Golden Dragon Island. That year, when Ao Chuang was roaming the Central Plains, he met a demon of the same level as him from the Khoi clan of the Yulon River. The two of them got along well, and so they became brothers. Later, this Khoi demon returned to the North Sea with Ao Chuang, but they encountered the fight for the title of Lord of the Golden Dragon Island. Ao Chuang, with his abilities, naturally did not want to let go of this opportunity. His good friend did his best to help, but unexpectedly, There were many demon cultivators fighting for the title of Lord of the Golden Dragon Island. With the help of this brother, Ao Chuang used all sorts of methods to defeat these competitors, and finally obtained the title of Lord of the Golden Dragon Island. However, this brother of his was heavily injured in the process of helping him eliminate his old enemy. Before this brother of Ao Chuang died, his wish was to return to the Yulon River of the Central Plains to see his son. Ao Chuang did not care that he had just obtained the title of Lord of the Golden Dragon Island, and that his foundation was not stable yet. He brought his brother back to the Yulon River to see his son. After this brother had a secret conversation with his son, before he died, he entrusted his son to Ao Chuang's tutelage. This was the Khoi Day Oist who later died at the hands of Lu Ping. And when Ao Chuang had roamed the Central Plains, he naturally knew that there was a vast swamp in the lower reaches of the Yulon River. This was the place where the demon beasts of the Yulon River were raised. Thus, Ao Chuang took advantage of this opportunity to release the 5 primordial crocodiles that had been defeated by him and had lost their intelligence into the swamp. The secret technique that Ao Chuang had obtained was that when 2 cultivators of the same bloodline advanced to the Dharma stage, one of them would be able to absorb the essence of the other cultivator's Dharma power to increase his own cultivation level and strength. Because this secret technique required the other person to be willing to cooperate, so if Ao Chuang wanted to use this secret technique to increase his own cultivation level, he had to first subdue this beast that was also from the primordial crocodile. Because it was difficult for the primordial crocodile to reproduce, it could not be like the green sea snake, which even had the power to compete with the Crystal Palace. In order to use this secret technique that he had obtained from an ancient relic, Ao Chuang did not hesitate to kill his own clansmen as beasts. This was a big taboo in the primordial crocodile clan, so Ao Chuang could only release these 5 beasts into the Ingyu swamp. After more than 100 years, except for 2 of the 5 beasts that died, only this one advanced to the Dharma stage. This made Ao Chuang overjoyed. Ao Chuang Laozu, who had always been unable to improve his cultivation level quickly, could not wait to return to the central region to subdue this fierce beast that had advanced to the Dharma stage. Unexpectedly, when he finally found this fierce beast in the swamp, he found that this fierce beast was being subdued by someone. What made Ao Chuang Laozu even more troubled was that this cultivator who was trying to subdue the primordial crocodile was a cultivator of the spirit beast sect. The primordial crocodile clan was not a match for the spirit beast sect. Moreover, the spirit beast sect had always been protective and pestering. Normally, Ao Chuang Laozu would not be willing to provoke them. However, this fierce crocodile was released by Ao Chuang in order to use that secret technique. It was the trump card that Ao Chuang used to compete with Jiang Tianlin, Feng Shidao, Zhong Shiri, and the others. How could he let Immortal Sang Yu take it without saying anything? What happened next was similar to what Enlightened Master Sang Yu told Lu Ping. Enlightened Master Sang Yu was injured by Ao Chuang's secret technique, which could destroy a cultivator's bloodline. Ao Chuang's secret technique that could destroy a cultivator's bloodline came from his sworn brother from the Khoi clan. Lu Ping's pair of flying swords attacked one after another. After knocking off Ao Chuang's magic weapon, the pair of flying swords turned into 2 intertwining green flood dragons that flew towards Ao Chuang Laozu. At this time, Ao Chuang Laozu could already see that the person blocking him was only a cultivator at the 8th stage of the core forging realm, but Ao Chuang Laozu did not dare to be careless. This was because this was the Central Plains, where geniuses were emerging endlessly. There was no lack of core forging realm cultivators challenging Dharma realm cultivators. Ao Chuang Laozu had personally witnessed such a thing when he traveled the Central Plains, not to mention that the Spirit Beast sect cultivator in front of him was able to escape from his sneak attack a month ago. Lu Ping had obtained a secret technique from his sect to conceal his appearance, and he also used the 5 elements cloudy robe to mask his appearance further. He was no longer worried that Ao Chuang Laozu would be able to recognize him. He only needed to control his pair of flying swords, like a fairy scattering flowers, and he firmly entangled Ao Chuang Laozu. Immortal Sang Yu was secretly shocked when he saw this, but he still shouted to the Green Fox 9 bandits, "Brothers, put in a little more effort and quickly subdue this fierce crocodile so that we can return and help Brother Lu." Ao Chuang Laozu roared angrily. The reason why he was so careful when dealing with Lu Ping was to avoid making a mistake. In reality, among the Central Plains cultivators who were only at the core forging stage, most of them could take advantage of Dharma adepts when the Dharma adept was careless. If the Dharma adept was serious, these so-called core forging adepts who could compete with the Dharma adept would most likely lose. Only the direct descendants of the 5 Holy Lands, or the older, large sects like the Yuan clan or the Tianxian sect, might have core forging adepts who could challenge those of a higher stage. However, Ao Chuang Laozu did not seem to be lucky. He had encountered one today. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,